Hello, everybody, and welcome to Andy and Marty Make a Friend. We're talking about vampires again. Yeah. So, if you haven't seen our other two episodes, we talked a lot about the world of darkness. Kind of generically and a little more specifically, we got into vampire stuff at the end of the last episode. So there's nearly 5 hours of that if you want to watch it. And we're going to add to it right now. So, Marty and I, and we even mentioned it in that episode. Oh, in chat, let me know if I'm too loud. It is not October, so we're just gonna a nice January vampire.
That's right.
So yeah, so we mentioned it in the last episode, kind of this idea of like a rapid fire, just going through concepts. We're not going to full build vampires, but we'll talk about them. Talk about each of the Camarilla clans. We're going to do the classic seven Camarilla clans? I think it is.
Yep.
And then maybe at a later date we'll do the Sapat and Independence, and then at a later date probably do the Bloodlines, and there are like 13 of them. And I'd have to do more research about them. But let's talk about the Camarilla.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what January has, Andy?
What's that?
Long nights. Long nights.
I love it.
There you go.
I love it.
Thematic.
I think we talked in the last episode a bit about the Camarilla and kind of we talked about the Anarch Revolt and how a bunch of vampires showed up and was like, see, you thought we didn't have it good enough? Turns out we had it too good for too long.
Yep.
Everybody get back inside.
Yes. Yes, the Camarilla are the back inside faction. And yeah, they're the good guys. They're the default. They are not good guys. They are the default, though. They are better guys because they do generally have rules that say don't wantonly murder. Don't murder at all, really, if you can avoid it. But much the way that money protects power in, let's say, late-stage capitalism America.
I don't know what you're talking about.
A couple murders can disappear for a vampire with some clout pretty quickly. But yeah, they're the comeback inside vampires. They all got together. 7 clans, kind of originally and most notably, got together and formed a pact that was like, we're installing rules, and this is half Anarch Revolt backlash, and this was half the Anarch Revolt. Kind of kickstarted what we would consider the Spanish Inquisition, because anarchs are rocking the boat too much and making too much noise, and humanity stops pretending they didn't know that vampires were there the whole time, and we're like, we were going to burn all of you fuckers down. No one needs this many castles, like in this, in Bavaria. And so the Camarilla were kind of like, cool, we're all going to be cool. Tenet 1, be cool. Tenet 2, don't make it hot for us.
So my top two rules as well.
That's right. So yeah, that's where the name Vampire the Masquerade comes from, because the masquerade is pretending to be people, right? Like, you walk around, you don't do obvious vampire shit, you don't throw fucking buses at people or sewer lids or cars or gates or other potence cards. You just don't do obvious vampire shit, and you get to survive being a shitty little predator on the edges of society. And because cities are where the people are, the Camarilla is a primary power broker of cities. They tend to control populations of cities. There are Camarilla cities and Sabbat cities and Anarch cities, and so yeah, they have a very organized power structure. At the top is a prince. Under them is usually some clanless. It could be anybody, kind of like a seneschal, as they're kind of Gal Fridays and major domos. There's usually a sheriff, who's a person who patrols vampire crimes. There's a scourge, who goes out and punishes vampire crimes. There's the Primogen, which is usually the oldest. Primogen meaning firstborn. There's your nerdy Latin for the day. Primogen is usually the oldest, if not the most influential vampire of a clan per clan. Like, so they kind of form like a little senate. There's usually only one per clan. It doesn't have to be that way. That's just the traditional way of thinking of it. And then everyone else, like any city council meeting you've ever been to, can show up to air grievances or boo from the crowd. Sometimes there's organized booers called the Harpies and whatnot. And yeah, so they're basically vampire city council, or vampire school council. I like to put them down as much as possible. I like to consider that they have to go rent a space, which they have to pretend is like an NA meeting or something like that, and set up folding chairs for these dignified ancient fucking Ventru to sit on. Like, where they brew shitty AA coffee that no one's going to touch because no one here, like, unless they got a ghoul, they're the only ones that appreciate it. And you're just going to sit around with like one light's flickering. Like every Camarilla like meeting I've ever like been role played through has always been like velvet curtains and like, you know, chandeliers and like fountains of blood, and like they've got people. No, you didn't move in people to Fountain of Blood here. Like, absolutely not. Not if you're the Camarilla and you got to. No, you set up in a strip mall with folding chairs.
You haven't seen What We Do, the TV show What We Do in the Shadows, have you?
I've seen one episode so far, but no.
So there's an episode where they have their version of the Camarilla shows up, and they're clearly in some like old warehouse, but they do put up like black curtains, so their room is kind of menacing, but it's basically empty. But then they show where the familiars are, and it's this shitty back room. There's a cat, because the cat is a familiar of someone. It's got like an open litter box. And it's just, they have the shitty coffee and everyone's like, cool. How long have you not been a vampire? Because it's been 10 years for me.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And you know, if we get any visitors or if anyone's watching this YouTube, you know, video later and you really just love the 5th edition, just taking this way too seriously, dude, bro, Menace and Fangs, leather bound, everything, like, good for you, man. This game is for you too. I gradually hated it the more I grew up because I thought it was less and less realistic. And I like it. I like it more that these very dignified monsters, these gentleman monsters, have to put up with this constant indignity of the modern world. Like, and then you chafe under it too. This masquerade bothers the shit out of elders because it's just like, yeah, I used to fucking sit in a castle. I used to just collect pieces of art. And now I have to take calls. I had to embrace a guy to take calls for me because I didn't know what that meant. 50 years, I didn't know what that meant. They still have the girls that plug in the phone for you? No, apparently. That was an embarrassing moment from last week, Carl.
Tried to dial,
like, yeah.
Yeah, tried to dial a phone number with letters. They don't do that anymore.
No one told me. So yeah, and that's just that's just my style. I love the more serious someone's pretending to be, the funnier I think it is that they suck. So that's a big flavor for me. And yeah, like, just realistically, like, again, if you've ever been to an AA meeting, an NA meeting, or any kind of like just watch Fight Club. And it's not aspirational. Please don't take it as aspirational. But all the shitty indignities that everybody has to put up with to proclaim their shitty indignities. That's a great vampire metaphor. Especially the Camarilla, who used to have these golden ages of, you know, silver broadswords that they were fighting vampires in the steppes with or whatever. And now they're living in a penthouse with crushed velvet.
Okay, yeah. So do we want to then talk about the specific clans of the Camarilla?
Sure.
Starting, we'll just do alphabetically because that's easy. So starting with the Bruja or Bruja, depending on how fancy it would be.
Yep. Yeah. And so, yeah, one of the, I was going to say one of my favorite clans, but they're all my favorite clans. If you push me against a wall and say something nice about the Gangrel, I'll be like, I fucking love the Gangrel. So yeah, the Bruja or the Bruja, and again, I always like to think that the rest of the world calls them Bruja, and America is just like, yeah, Bruja, got it. It just means witch, which is weird because I think it just kind of also occasionally just means archetypical monster. You occasionally see it in like Japanime or something like that, where they'll break out Brujas and things. It's just kind of overall monsters. But that etymology has zero to nothing to do with the clan itself. I'm trying to remember. I think the revised clan book made a decent enough origin story for why they call themselves that. Yeah, so the central tenet of the Bruja, which I will keep calling them, so apologies to my Castilians out there. But yeah, the central tenet of the Bruja is rebels. They're rebellion. They are iconoclasts. They are boat rockers most foul. They're askers of inconvenient questions. They're your commie liberals who want to form unions and take care of people. They dream of better tomorrows. Like, all of these things are kind of like the golden thread that you would kind of weave together the commonalities of what a Bruja is. But I went on about this before, so I don't want to belabor the point too much, but we might need it for context of this video. But the Bruja is probably neck and neck with the Toreador for being the clan that's furthest away from what they were, right? In ancient times, in the Wayback Machine, they were great philosopher, poet, kings and crap, right? Like, they were the old thinking man's general and whatever, of just kind of like, they would sit there and, paint the Mount Fuji with one hand as they mowed down enemy generals with the left, and then forgave all the soldiers that worked under them. Like, they were these big, magnanimous, big thinkers. And then they were kind of like, they considered themselves to be really fucked over by the clan we'll get to last, arguably, the Ventru. And so, as they kind of felt themselves forced out of more traditional power, they started to kind of walk around in the shadows a little bit more. And so they went from embracing your Aristotles and philosophers to embracing your kind of like, look, I need 3 thugs who can hold a cudgel. Or these people were loyal to me. Like, they're very passionate people. Their clan flaw is being too passionate, arguably. They frenzy a lot easier. But so they are considered a temperous breed. But as time went on, they started to embrace more and more like people who didn't get along in groups terribly well. And then those people's opinions of what a rebel was started to take hold. So then over generations into the modern Knights, you got more and more like gangs, like just street gang members. And then that guy's like, well, I'm going to embrace my brother and his girlfriend because they're cool. And I'm going to embrace, like, just imagine like, like a rap star or like a football or a basketball, probably even more, because you can be famous at 17. You can be a millionaire at 17. Give a 17-year-old kid millions of dollars, and how many all of a sudden like boys he's got, and the entourage he travels with, and how many cousins he suddenly discovered he has, and he's given all of them some money, and he's taken them all to the club and everything like that. Now imagine embracing all those people as a vampire. And you've got kind of the way the Bruja just kind of, the modern Bruja stereotype kind of thinks. I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, shit, I brought all my boys. It's like, no, you can't bring all your boys. I need several of your boys to go home. You need a lot less boys. I don't know how to tell you this. It's a lot less long-term thinking. It's a lot more irrational right now, which is, of course, why they generally fill out most of the foot soldiers of the anarchs, the modern anarchs, who we're not talking about right now. So that's my headline of the Bruja. Let's unpack something very major there, though, which is they don't get along well in groups. Doesn't a good character make, let alone make a decent backbone to, the good guys, the government of vampires. So you want to walk that back a little bit. Unless you're playing a 13th generation, out-of-the-box ne'er-do-well who doesn't have to respect social structures or whatever, your elder representative Bruja in the city are going to be people who can still get shit done, right? Like, they're going to be people who understand that not everything is a reason to throw a Molotov cocktail. You can't pick a fight at everything. or if you do pick a fight, it's the kind of fights you see in actual like traditional democracies, up to and including throwing chairs in Parliament or something like that, or shooting someone on the Senate floor. But like they're the kind of fiery arguments, but you still like when someone's just kind of like the gentleman's time has yielded, and you'll be like, and you hold on to your anger until the next time the meeting comes up. So creating the iconoclast asshole Bruja who doesn't listen to anyone gets very exhausting very quickly. Your other players don't want to play with you. Your storyteller's done with you almost immediately. You have to keep coming up with excuses why the power structure hasn't murdered you already. If not, they're going to murder you for sure. So when you're building your Bruja, understand that they're going to embellish and exaggerate these traits so that you get an idea of where, the bubble in which Bruja live. And then you're going to want to take it back a couple ticks and start building into things like, works well in groups, does okay with others.
If you even, take it back one step to what you were talking about, where they are often gang members. Gang members work together. Like, it's not you can't have a gang of one person. That's not how it works. Like, so yeah, you might be fuck the man. It doesn't mean you're not going to find other people who are also like, yeah, fuck the man. So you have to have some level of you get along with somebody.
Yeah.
Because also a solo vampire is a good way to get yourself killed, as you said, of just like, if you're pissing everyone off, eventually someone's going to just give you the final death and nobody's going to care. Yeah, that guy was a pain in my ass.
Everyone's going to be like, thank you. Yes, we were all thinking it. And that's a great point, because even taking it back to the gang member, which again is kind of that's going to be your character art when you turn to the page to B for Bruja. It's going to be some leather-clad dude.
It's in V20 it's Theo Bell, but yeah, he's wearing a leather jacket and has a shotgun.
Yeah, but Theo Bell is rad as hell. Yeah. I love Theo Bell. But like, yes, there is power structure in gangs. You don't go to war with each other every night. That would be exhausting, and eventually you form tentative alliances of just kind of like, if we don't see your people on this side of the street, we don't need to do this. Or you take a disrespect now to pay that disrespect back 2 weeks from now. Like, you're not constant angry violence machines, because if you were, the war would be over already. You'd all be dead bodies. So that includes, if you do go to court, it's not your job to speak as a lieutenant. It's, your Primogen member or your boss or whoever the lead man there is. In the mafia, it's a consigliere or whatever. Your place, and it's not to be like, when the dogs start barking, then you get in there and bark too, for sure. But like, until someone tells you it's time to set this off, you sit on your hands and you hate it as much as you want, and you all complain about it, on the ride home. So yes, you can cooperate, for God's sakes, please. Storytellers out there everywhere just want you to please understand you can get along. And it's not that much of a stretch, as we just described. Like, even if you want to be the badass of all badass, anyone who's a higher generation of you is more of a badass than you. So unless you want to constantly get your ass kicked, in dick measuring contests where everyone's dick is bigger than yours, then you're going to stop measuring dicks like night 2 rather quickly. But that's the Bruja. And again, that's kind of how the Mighty Have Fallen version of the Bruja. The modern Bruja are very much these kind of like cantankerous clatterers.
And I know this has changed in V5, but in V20, they are still members of the Camarilla, because they serve a purpose in the Camarilla. If you just get a bunch of yes men, that's not actually helpful. You need someone to question your practices to make sure you're not just stagnated. Well, that's how we did it 500 years ago. Cool. Well, they have cell phones now, and we keep getting caught on camera.
Yeah, because they don't use mirrors anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm sorry, you say
sorry. Yeah,
D&D 5e. Right,
D&D 5e, the Bruja are...
big fan of D&D 5e. No, and we can get me off on a different tangent about 5e some other time, because I don't think it's all bad. I just hate all of it almost. But yeah, yes, precisely that is the more they looked at it, because again, all these things started from stereotypes. I said this in the last couple of videos. All of these were very basic boilerplate. Do you want to play the kids from Lost Boys? They're the Bruja, right? Like, I mean, it was all but literally, do you want to play the Near Dark gang? It's the Bruja, right? Like, they could just kind of throw these modern gothic punk looking toughs into one clan. The more they started to reflect back on it is, why do they even tolerate these guys? Is exactly that, is because the Bruja move fast. The Bruja can adapt. And the Bruja can keep the whole, ivory pillar evolving too. They can keep moving it, and they can rent the strip mall that you're going to be holding Elysium in next week, because they know a guy. So yes, they are very useful to the Camarilla proper. And there are plenty who wore suits, who are more than 100 years old, who remember when, like, you just wore a suit and a hat to your gang fights,
Yeah.
You weren't animals about it, for goodness sakes.
You put on your hat.
Yeah.
And then you go and you went and skulled a guy.
Yeah. Not to mention, when you're typically, I keep mentioning the fact that you embrace 6 of your cousins because no one told you not to. The real response to that in a good vampire setting is they killed your 6 cousins and told you to grow up. Like,
sure,
we're not putting up with them. They weren't permissed by a prince or something like that. And you're just going to have to learn that those earthly ties are not what they used to be.
Yeah, there are rules.
Right, there are rules.
You can rebel against them all you like. You're one person. Get all your buddies together, and then we'll talk.
But also, like, traditionally, you're supposed to get the permission of a prince that I would like to embrace a person. And then, even beyond that, you should explain why you want to embrace this person, why they're important to you. Like, you actually have to, like, fill out paperwork almost to, like, get somebody. So if you're only going to get one embrace this century or for the next 20 years or so, you're going to want to make it somebody who counts and adds long-term value to your organization. You don't need more foot soldiers. You can get foot soldiers. You can dominate foot soldiers. You got presence. You can summon a gang that you make sure they stay out of jail and you keep money and drugs flowing to. Like, you can get a gang. Gangs are easy. You want somebody better than that. You need somebody who can bring something to the table that helps your clan and the Camarilla as a whole. So, and yeah, that ability to work at the speed of humanity is something that the Bruja are particularly good.
So as you mentioned, their one of their disciplines is presence.
Mm-hmm.
And then their other clan disciplines are celerity and potence. So
real fast and real strong.
Yep, that plays into and that kind of does, when you think about it, being able to be very awe-inspiring, and being fast and strong to back it up. Yeah, that probably makes a very good gang leader.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it certainly does not dissuade even the casual player of being like, this is the fighter, right? The Bruja is the fighter of vampire. They're fast, they're strong, they can kick all the asses you want, and arguably there's some in-world fiction that backs up you being just a thug. Like, so again, I don't find that very interesting past its first playthrough, but it's there.
But to bring that back to D&D a little bit, human variant champion fighter is the most popular class. Mm-hmm. There is nothing wrong with being especially if you are new to this system and you're like, I don't want to push any buttons yet. Let me just figure this out. Let me figure out the vampire world. Playing just a guy who does all the things vampires can do in movies. They're strong, right. They're tough, they're fast. They can perform some sort of domination, even though it's not dominate, it's presence. But it still ends up being very similar. You're hypnotizing people. The Bruja is a great... I've never played before. Can I be this vampire? Yes, you can. Here is your Bruja.
100%.
I want to be a lost boy, as you said.
Yeah, you don't... Much like if you want to be a champion fighter, you're probably not looking to mess with spells or, how many rages I can do a day or how many, how do I smite? Potence and celerity do not have levels, so to speak. Like you spend points in levels, but you don't have like, and at first level you can bend steel, and at third level you can break concrete. You have more strength, do faster. Like those are like it. And then presence has a pretty easy to understand graduation. So yeah, they're a great stepping on point if you just want to try out some vampires. And hey, if all of you want to be some Bruja, boy, you got a game going. You got a beer and chips game going tonight. So yeah, that is the Bruja at a glance. I love them. I love them because they're closer to humanity. Another reason that they're good starter vampires, they're not a reach necessarily, because they still get mad at stuff. They still have trouble dealing with all of this. Like when they go to these meetings where everyone's like, the gentleman from Richmond is not yet recognized. They're just kind of like, bullshit. When can I go, dude? I've been here all night. Fuck. Like, so if you're impatient with all of it, they're impatient with it. It's literally their flaw, so you get away with it. Like, you're given permission. Now, again, you're not given permission to be an asshole, but you are given permission to always be kind of like rattling the cage a little bit of like, I need to go outside. The longer we're in here, the more I want to eat all of it. Like, more than usual.
In Pittsburgh by Night, you never said who this person's clan was, but I'm pretty sure I know who this person's clan. You described some kind of mall girl with giant hair and a jean jacket, and she turns to someone and says, at some point it says, "Fuck you, I'm allowed to be here." And yeah, she gets to say she doesn't like it, and fuck you, I'm allowed to be here.
She was in fact a Bruja, and she was a harpy. I think she was formerly an anarch, and they were trying to like be like, we can't have anarchs right now. We need everyone under the tent. And we will come to the meetings and you are allowed to be here. Like, they literally were basically telling her, like, you're allowed to be here. You're allowed to be you. We don't need you to change. So she makes a nuisance of herself as often as possible because, fuck you, I'm allowed to be here. Yeah, she's fun. So let's cut off the danger of this going 3 hours on its own. I think we were mildly worried we wouldn't have.
We're gonna have enough time. We're gonna have enough content.
Yes. So this was the other idea of it, and I still want to do this kind of like picture of a clan a little bit more intimately. Also, so again, the context is within the video that we're doing it in. Mm-hmm. That's helpful, but also so that we kind of understand what we're building from. When we're not going to build a character, we're just going to kind of conceptualize a character or 5 or 1 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, Bruja, Andy, what do you think when you're thinking Bruja?
So two things right off the bat. One, we built a Bruja on our last episode.
That's right, we did.
Our scumbag accountant was a Bruja. Yep. And I love that character concept still. That is, I would love to play that character concept still. And I'm not going to read. I have a quote for this one from a movie, and I'm not going to do that. This is the only one I have that for. But I don't know if you've ever seen The Third Man with Orson Welles. It's a great movie.
Contemporary reference.
Yes, but there is a quote from that always makes me think of the Bruja, which is the guy is trying to find Orson Welles the whole movie, and he finally finds him, and they're on like a Ferris wheel in Europe somewhere. And Orson Welles says, "Don't be so gloomy. After all, it's not that awful. You know what the fellow said? In Italy for 30 years under the Borgia, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed. But they produced Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace. And what did that produce? The cuckoo clock." So that's just always what I think of when I think of Bruja. Orson Welles is getting shit done in that movie. That doesn't mean he's above doing dirty work or anything like that. So, but I also always love the Bruja who shows up in a suit. It's the lawyer. It's the accountant. It's a guy from 50 years ago who's just like, you dress up nice before you smash someone's kneecaps.
It's polite.
It's polite.
I call him Donald Brooks.
Oh, I like Donald Brooks. That's very stupid, and I like it.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so Scumbag Accountant is the one that kind of pops into my head right now, just because we did talk about him, and I know that's a slight cop out. But the other thing is this line right here, which I'm not going to show you everybody the whole PDF, even though it's giant. But agents of change in a society long crippled by stasis. If that doesn't speak to you, kind of in these modern nights, look, that sentence alone is a Bruja. Like, just look at what's happening, think about it, and pick people on the right side of that. But, and by that I mean the left side of that. But
right, the correct side.
The correct side. But yeah, agents of change in a society long crippled by stasis. But now you're a vampire.
Yeah. Black Lives Matter. Probably some Bruja chipping away at the edge of that. Portland. I can tell you the names of some of the vampires or the Bruja that are in there clashing with feds every night. Yeah, very much so. Now, all right, I want to address the controversial elephant in the room. So, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, when they published the Bruja, they went out and said some.
Oh, right.
They codified in the book some things of like, basically what amounted to Gamergate trolls and skinheads or neo-Nazis or whatever. I want to. They were just 10 years too late. And wrong for being 10 years too late. They were 10 years of plenty of signposts too late to put that in the published Bruja write-up. Now, I don't think they're wrong, because you said on the right side of it and then corrected what you mean by that is the correct or the left side. Yeah, but they're on the right side too.
Yeah, almost certainly. But
they are these kinds of ethno-state assholes in there too, I'm sure. Someone embraced somebody who they thought had great ideas. That person turned on them, staked them, and started some splinter cult or Proud Boy or whatever other thing. Now, the biggest mistake they made is not leaving that to the anti-tribute, right?
Right.
Not saying that's the Bruja anti-tribute right now, which we'll describe a little bit better. It means the Sabbat versions, the bad versions, right? The Bruja are the Black Lives Matter. For most, especially our audience, hopefully, if not. Get fucked. I don't know what to say. But yeah, when I think of the Bruja, that is where I go. I go to Portland, which is a little more anarchic and violent, but I go to Black Lives Matter. I go to the Women's March from 4 years ago. Like, I go to Pussy Hats and other nonsense. Let's call it nonsense. I use nonsense very dismissively for everything. That's what I think of when I think of Camarilla, Bruja, Forces for Good, anarchs even. People who just are very cause-headed. Probably 40% of Twitter are Bruja yapping at each other. It's probably a good amount of them. That's all very, even tone policing and problematic tumblers. It's probably all Bruja. Where you want to draw the line is before you start co-signing any kind of alt-right Proud Boy Nazism or whatever, you want to put that on the bad guy camp of it. You want to intentionally separate it and make sure that everyone knows that is the flip side of the coin. And if you and your storyteller think there's a story to tell there, no one's at your table telling you can't do that. You just can't, shouldn't, and I don't know how it got that far. Do not put that in an officially sanctioned fucking product. As here's some character concepts for you. You could be a Nazi. Right off, dude. And again, we might have gotten away with that writing White Wolf in the mid 90s.
Well, there weren't as many actual Nazis anymore.
For instance, but you might have gotten away with that, and you would have done it once, and you would have gotten booed on RPG.net or something, but not very loudly. So I wanted to address that because this defines so much that's wrong with D&D 5th edition Vampire is. They were so no, I shouldn't even get down this. They saw, when I say I'm barely on the top of this pile of much better people, but they saw what they were doing. They saw what White Wolf did and didn't understand the exacting skill it took to do it. the bouncing on the head of a pin it took to do it. They weren't just edgy for edgy's sake. And when they were, it was often made fun of internally. And like the people doing it kind of knew it was a goof. Like, anyway, I will get off that soapbox, but they weren't wrong. They were wrong in how they did it.
Sure.
So with that put to bed, I also like a Bruja in a suit. So I think, what if you kind of take like the bad boy Silicon Valley CEO?
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What all of these guys wish they were. What if there was like that guy who was just kind of like, no cubicles, all open concept. We're just going to do it on the floor, you know, like just this kind of like someone who made their millions, but like we would even probably want to put them at like MySpace guy, right? Like a guy who boomed already and busted so he can kind of properly go invisible now. Like he's made his billions and just no one cares about Napster guy anymore. So he can disappear, but also his money can still be fueling these. What's your idea? Here's 10 grand for even coming in. Yes, absolutely. I want to see what you got. Like this idea of somebody who the Bruja are kind of like, man, it's all moving too fast for us. We're the fast moving planet that's moving too fast for us. We need a guy whose job is to sit on the internet and be like, I got like Shark Tank all day. I got you 6 more startups. One of them's going to succeed, but that's all right. I got fuck you money to throw at these things. So I think bad boy CEO, probably Lex Luthor from that stupid movie.
Oh, sure.
There's one.
Elongated muskrat.
Elongated muskrat. Again, who he wishes that he was, right, for sure.
Oh, well, and it could. And that's one of the things I love about the system, where we talked about it a little bit at the end of last episode. It was nature and demeanor, the way you present yourself and the way you really are. Because you might be just this super insecure little nerd, and now you're a vampire, and people have to listen to you because you're magnetic. And it's everything you ever wanted to be, and you were just some nerd who wore a hoodie to work every day and had money.
Yeah.
And now they have to listen to you because you're buff and fast.
I own so many Buster Swords, dude, you don't even fucking know. 100%. 100%. And even here, like, Elongated Muskrat came on the scene, and I think everyone was kind of like, oh, dude, this guy's rad. I'd embrace him. And then you're like, wait, you didn't invent any of it? None of it? You grew up with emeralds in your pocket? Dude, nobody does that.
Yeah. You get your money from where?
Tell people that.
Apartheid. Shit.
Ah, shit. I thought it was German. I sort of said apartheid. I thought he was part head. I don't know.
I don't speak German.
I was high on ravers that night. I don't speak German. Oh, Bruja, you do it to yourselves. So yeah,
I love it. I love it.
You can literally have it be this kind of plasticine half man that is Elongated Muskrat, who's just banging EDM broads now because he's cool now, because he drove a car into space or something. I only pay half attention to the TV.
That's about right.
That's about right. So just throwing more trash into space, I guess. Cool. You can't tell you grew up with emeralds in your pocket. Loose emeralds. Fuck you. I mean, love him. You absolutely respect him.
What's it from the Weekly Planet? Big hollers or big hollers for big dollars?
That's it. Yeah. Big hollers for big dollars. What a great guy. Calling people pedophiles for all the best reasons, I'm sure. Anyway, so yes, that's my off the dome pitch. And yeah, I think that guy's fun. He's immediately kind of shitty. I can already find the comedy angle in playing this guy. He's obnoxious right off the jump, which means as a player, I'm going to have fun playing him. But he's also like, he obviously does bring actual skills to the table. Like, I can actually play this guy and long-term plan him, short-term plan him. He has tools in which to respond to crises. Probably sinking a lot of his money into resources because I've kind of made that part of the backstory. But I'm going to build a herd for him, right? Like, because people that work for him probably either love him or hate him. You know, the Google campus for a while was the coolest place to work until now you're hearing more and more that it's, you know, some obnoxious, toxic factory where the people want to unionize. And again, and you can make this guy cool. You can make this guy be like, hey, before we even start, I want you guys to form a union. Like, absolutely not,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
I can't do anything without you guys saying. Yeah.
yeah. You don't have because you don't have to make him that shitty. He could be the cool. It turns out I don't know this is true, but it turns out maybe Tom from MySpace was super rad, and MySpace just fell away, and it wasn't his
He just
fault.
didn't have that killer instinct.
Yeah, so and also
That's why he didn't know it was cool to drop and that's why it's still called the MySpace.
the MySpace. And a billion things just started flashing whenever you went to any of your friends' MySpace page.
It should be the GeoCities guy who still doesn't understand why sparkling rainbows fell out of fashion.
What's wrong with Angel Fire?
Just being glitter bombed every time you open up the internet was cool.
And some MIDI version of the Imperial March is just blaring, and you don't know from where. You can't turn it off. There's no button for that.
There's no button for that.
Why would you ever want it to stop?
These web rings of it's like Gawker, Ranker, Jezebel, like all those, right? Like they're all part of like media groups at this point or whatever. Like, yeah, you could do a lot of different risks with that idea. Yeah, my favorite Bruja I never got to play was the Undercover Cop, I think. Because I like the idea that she's being embraced as a gang member who's really resourceful and super good at this stuff. And because that has an inbuilt fuse lit on the character concept. So you want your storyteller to be on board with any fuses you plan on lighting before session 0. But that would be fun for a long-term campaign, or even a midterm. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's Bruja.
Okay.
For anything else to say? You got any more Bruja concepts?
No, I think I love all yours. I think that's I think that's good for the Bruja. I think we talked about a lot about them, and yeah, to me, Bruja especially, the possibilities are just endless.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could also be, and okay, this will be the last thing I could say. You could also be like, yeah, just some dude who was making some kind of trouble for vampires or whatever, and the vampires are like, well, cool, you're a vampire now. That way you can't blow up our spot because we'll kill you, but you are useful, and also now you get mad all the time.
And it's your spot too now.
Yeah,
someone who's very good at killing vampires as a person. Yeah, I might consider. You know what? You made it, dude, to the next level.
We occasionally need to kill vampires as vampires. Interesting.
But yeah, your homework for the Bruja is take the concept of rebel and start crumbling it apart. Someone who shouts and throws bottles against courtroom walls is too obvious. Go deeper than that. Find the next thing. Find the rebel CEO of whatever. Find the dirtbag accountant. Find something and rebel against it as your core concept.
Yeah. Even someone like Banksy. Banksy would make a cool Bruja. Like,
fuck yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's out there thinking he's Toreador? No.
No.
No, it's not.
No. Fuck you. Fuck you for thinking it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to scroll through and we're going to skip a couple of these because they're not Camarilla clans, but we'll talk about them at a later date.
Yep.
So the Gangrel, Marty. What about the Gangrel?
This Gangrel creature. First off, barely a word. Really have to throw back to find anything being called a Gangrel.
That's the bad guy in Beowulf, right?
You got it. Yeah, so, yes, the Gangrel, as I always kind of probably default to pronouncing it, the first vampire shirt I bought, because they were my first clan in love, and we'll get to why in a second, pretty quick second, but they're outdoorsy loner types, like writ large. They're like, their whole clan structure is really weird. And eventually, that's the reason that they kind of outgrew the Camarilla. By the time the metafiction kept progressing, they're like, why are these guys still here? They do not care. They are an independent clan who is barely here. And I think they made good enough justifications to keep them there long enough. But yeah, they don't like cities. Big strike against them being joiners of any groups. They really kind of worship the idea of self-sufficiency and being able to survive on your own and not liking to come into cities. Jay played a Gangrel in Pittsburgh by Night, and their sire was even rejecting joining the rest of the Gangrel on their pilgrimage and was intentionally being like, I live in the hills, man. I don't need it. So again, we immediately are going to start running aground of caveats such as like, don't be that guy entirely or that girl. Like it, that can kind of be your fallback of like, I don't need no friend. My only friend's the road and the squirrels. Cool. For the rest of this story, could you need one more friend at least? Like, could you have any reason to be here? You're going to be doing your storyteller a big favor. And you can be, well, we'll get into what you can be because that's going to be our part of it. But all right, so yeah, the Gangrel. Again, I tend to call them the Gangrel, but Gangrel is probably closer to its etymology. Yeah, they're dirty hippie loner types. They're homeless foragers. They're urban botanists. They live in parks. They tend to, whenever you need a crossover with werewolves, they're probably your go-to person who has friends with exactly one werewolf. They meet at the edge of the park. They smoke a cigarette and they're like, "We're cool, right? Okay, cool." And then they go back to whatever else they do. And that doesn't need to be all they are. They can. Survival is probably the watchword of the Gangrel. And so if you survived some rad shit and a Gangrel saw it, they're like, dude, this person fucks. Like, they don't go down. And that's my number one, kind of siren goal is to find somebody who's just going to survive. And so you can start spinning that off into people who survive modernly, like it doesn't need to be someone who survives, with a sharpened stick in the woods. It can be somebody who survives, the club scene, or somebody who survives the rap biz, or something like that. Like, yeah. So actually I think that one's exciting. That might be my new concept. But so yeah, survivors is like, if rebels was your word for the Bruja, survivors is your word for the Gangrel. They tend to be really outdoorsy type, and we're going to get into why just now. Why were they my favorite? Because they were the shapeshifters, and I just love that. If you're going to give me the ability to turn into different stuff, including mists and bats and wolves and crap like that, I always fancied myself like an outdoorsy type who didn't like to go outdoors. So getting to role play as outdoorsy types was always fun for me.
I like the concept of outside, as long as I'm just looking at it through a window.
That's right.
That's me, 100%.
Yeah, they're wearing Canadian tuxedos to every to everything. Real ripped jeans and a tie for a belt, asshole haircuts. Really me in high school vibes. So yeah, they have the shape changing, which also kind of tends to be the body control.
Yeah, make your hands into claws and
see at night. Like all the kind of cool vampire power, at least to me. And that's one of the things that Vampire the Masquerade did very well is whatever your cool vampire was, you can play it. Just, cool. You like being high society predators, then we've got 2 clans for you. If you wanted to be the kind of dirty scumbag who can see at night, grow fangs and claws and turn into wolves, here you are.
Yeah, well, and one of their other powers, summon wolves to do your bidding. Or, you won't sass me like that.
Talk to animals
when I can summon wolves.
You won't sass me
Liz in chat says, could you be that one friend who's always couch surfing and living with a different buddy every month?
1,000,000,000% you could. Yes. And I love that too, because it's kind of the pull your bootstraps narrative. Like, I don't need anybody. Hey, Lisa, can I stay here tonight? Because things are kind of hot with me over at Rachel's. She really wants me to be paying rent, and I don't believe in money, so cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. That is 100% that scumbag.
Yeah. The moochiest survivor.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I can't stress enough if you didn't get this from Bruja. I love that these people are just barely concealed masks over idiot straw. So yes, the idea that this guy thinks, or this woman would think that they're totally doing it on their own, and they are not doing it on their own, is fun in of itself, as well as being the cool, rad, brooding loner with the 4-lock hair and the Rip Danzig t-shirts or whatever. So
Cody from Unsleeping City season 2.
1,000,000,000%. Also, we've already used it for the Bruja, but we'll use it again. I know so many fucking Buster Swords, dude. I don't even fucking know. Dude, studied katana. Have I said it on this stream yet? Katanas are shitty swords. They're bad swords. They're used for like one stroke kills, and it probably broke off of someone's rib cage. They're a shitty sword. That million-fold tech. Fuck you. No one's doing that. They're cheap and shitty swords. They're like crappier knights, by the way. Their code sucked. So did knights, by the way. Knights also sucked.
Yeah, they're just tax collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Soup and Chat just went fuck.
Fuck. 100%.
Yeah.
If
you're not watching on Sleeping City season 2, you'll watch it because it's the best. But
it's very good. And I'll give you my sign in. Everyone watching this. So yeah, there's not a ton more to say about Gangrel because history-wise and influence-wise, they don't make their mark the same way that other clans do. So that's good. We're gonna save ourselves some time on the history of the Gangrel as great influencers.
Because I was looking at it, I was like, boy, Bruja was it, but I think Bruja just takes it. There's a couple clans that are just gonna take a lot more time. Bruja is one of them for sure. Yeah.
Gangrel, not so much.
Yeah.
You can have Gangrel princes and primogens and sheriffs and scourges is a good place for them. Yeah, you can have a Gangrel prince. Why the fuck wouldn't you be able to? Like, they don't need to be ever wanderlusting, wanderers or whatever, but they just tend to be. That's their thing.
Cool anarch barons would make Gangrel would be good barons and stuff like that. We're not really talking about anarchs, but at a later date maybe. But yeah, so what do you think of when you want to play a Gangrel? Oh, sorry, their clan disciplines are animalism. So you can do stuff with animals, talk to them, summon them, calm them down. Yeah, Dylan in chat says, it says a lot that Beckett is the iconic Gangrel, and he's just sort of the least iconic Gangrel, or the least Gangrel. Yeah, I mean, he's iconic. He's got books named after him. But he's not the stereotype of the clan.
Oh, brother, I could do 2 hours on Beckett alone. This fucking guy.
But so animalism, protean, which is the shape-shifting and body control, and fortitude, so you're big and tough.
Yeah, you can survive. Mm-hmm. It's all about survival. Because, it's within 5 dots of protean you can meld with the earth, right?
I think so.
So you can sleep anywhere. Like, that's part of their clan discipline's rig, is you can just, the sun's about to come up.
Yeah, if you're hunting in the woods or whatever, just bye.
Yeah.
And their clan weakness is when they when they frenzy, they take on animal characteristics. So they get like ears, or their nose slightly elongated.
They inevitably get the cool looking ones. Andrew, I've played enough Gangrel to assure you this is true. If you don't have wolf eyes by session 4, you are playing Gangrel.
One of the Gangrel I want to pitch is just gonna. I'll talk about it in a second, but
and let it not be unsaid that if you're into furry shit, the Gangrel are a great clan for you. They are built. Welcome, brother, they say, and sister. Like, just come on in. You lose your shit a couple times a month, and we've got the first enough for you. Yeah. And again, I say that no disrespect. I mean it. Yep. This is genuinely the place for you.
And the animal characteristics can go away, but they often are. They can also be permanent. And
you really had to spend a lot of blood and time dedicated to it. That's if you you accidentally lost your shit and you weren't looking for a cool, fur-lined arms or wolf ears or whatever. The second transition in a werewolf movie look. Then you can undo it, but let's be honest, a lot of the time you're just kind of like, no.
Yeah, you want cat eyes.
The road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. So yeah, Gangrel survivors. I'm kind of like, I was originally probably going to go with some party girl who survives, right? Like a little bit of couch surfing, like Liz suggested. I really like that idea. But just, survives the modern, because I really wanted to modernize it as much as possible and put it out. But I have said something because I've been watching a lot of Atlanta lately, but I think the idea of a rapper who's they've come up against a bunch of odds, they've come up with a bunch of people coming and trying to snatch their chains and shit. So they've always had to fight and scrape to get here. But they had that kind of old bardic tradition, right? Like these old Fiones and shit that also the Gangrel love to throw back to the great Irish warrior poets who would run through the thicket without, loosening a braid or whatever, that kind of crap. So you could kind of combine this idea of they've got this kind of poet soul and appreciation for the world around them, but are hard ass survivors at the heart of it as well. I think. Well, now I've just submitted 2 already because that was the intention of tonight. But yeah, I think either of those is good. Yeah. Good modern. You don't need to be fucking outdoors to be a Gangrel.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but I always kind of like. I wish there were more Camarilla City Gangrel, because I love that concept of just you are the ultimate urban survivor. And then, but I think even in this book, when you scroll down way in the Sabbat section to City Gangrel, it's like you take on the characteristics of urban animals. So you get, rat teeth and pigeon feathers and you're the ultimate survivor. Pigeons adapted. Okay, this is fine now. People are here. Great.
I'm not moving for your cab, bud.
Down is Pigeon Gangrel, 100%.
100%. Yeah. Got no problem with that. Closet weed growers, I do wonder, and I actually probably could DM a fair amount of people who could give me an answer. I wonder if there's any regret that they broke off the City Gangrel so early for the Sabbat. Because again, obviously, logically, there just has to be City Gangrel.
Right.
Like, no, City Gangrel is an actual bloodline.
Right.
For those of you who aren't keeping up, City Gangrel actually has different.
I think they have obfuscate
discipline
instead
sets.
Of something.
They have obfuscate, protean,
animalism. Still, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe they just switch out. Yeah, maybe. They definitely have obfuscate. Yeah,
they definitely have obfuscate. Hold on.
But they also kind of incidentally kind of forestalled that if you were an urban Gangrel, you were probably a Sabbat member. And I think I do wonder if design wise they were ever like, why do we do that?
Liz, could you use your powers to summon whatever stray dogs are around, like a poodle or something? Yeah.
Yes. You could be the crazy pigeon lady from Home Alone 2.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a dog person who just has a ton of like a homeless dog person. Although actually you have a great Nosferatu pitch for animal rescue person.
I'm going to talk about them. But so when I was thinking, I'll try and for Gangrel, have you ever seen or read Winter's Bone?
Oh yeah.
One of the rare cases where the movie is better than the book, but in my opinion. But yeah, just anyone in Winter's Bone, Jennifer Lawrence, perfect. Any of her fucking terrible drug dealing relatives, perfect. Like you were just, and yet maybe you have to come to the city for some reason, or you just play some Appalachia game where there aren't that many people out here.
Yeah.
And there's 4 Gangrel or something like that, and it's just like, well,
there's a line from Diggstown that I would love to use. I just forget the name of the county. It's just like, Diggstown is Oliver County. Oliver County is whatever. Like, so the idea that J. Law's character is living out there in just it's rundown trailers, and you're barely keeping your house, but it's been in your house for your family for 4 generations before you methed it all away. So you get to hold on to it just by grandfather laws. That ends up falling within the bounds of Philadelphia County. So when the prince comes calling, just kind of like, you have to come to court. Like, you have to come in every year to at least account for yourself. We have an accounting tenant. You have to show up. So you could still be absolutely living in a pickup truck on cinder blocks, but if you fall within the reach of the arguable princedom, you have to be accounted for by the Camarilla standards. So, I like that. I like that a lot.
And then I'm still trying to find.
And again, a great survivor, by the way, because she's skinning squirrels with her, teaching her siblings how to skin squirrels because they can't afford groceries every month.
Okay, City Gangrel, finally found them. Celerity, Obfuscate, and Protean. So they switched 2 disciplines.
Yeah, I was pretty sure their physical switched out. I just couldn't. I couldn't track it. So yeah, that makes sense.
And then the other along the similar lines of just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but just a shady roadside motel owner. You can. This person stopped here in the middle of the night. Now they're alone. I ate you.
Yeah.
It's going to take the cops a while to figure out that he never showed up at his destination, and there's no buy. I ate him.
Yeah.
I got him up and I ate him. Like,
yeah. No, I don't give receipts. And you can have, biker gangs, truckers, or whatever other transients that you actually do use, just like information networks or whatever.
Cash only.
Cash only. Cash only business. I like that one a lot. That's a very good Gangrel. That's even a good NPC for any given campaign too. If you're like, I don't know what I do with this character long term, but I like the idea, then make him an NPC. That's one of the funnest things of designing vampire cities or kind of ecosystems. It's just kind of like, I would never play this character. There's not enough there for me to want to play them, but they serve an important, cool function. Do we feel like we've said just about as much as we have to say about?
I think so.
The Gangrel, yeah. Again, I don't want to undercut. Gangrel are fun as fuck to play. Play yourselves a Gangrel.
They are one of my favorite clans. Like, the first 4 clans we are going to talk about today are my 4 favorite clans. And we'll get to Giovanni at a later date. But I just love those weirdos.
They are very weird.
Dylan and chat. I can't believe Norman Bates was a Gangrel. I mean, yeah, he's probably, I guess, a Malkavian. Like,
almost certainly.
Man, Norman Bates could be a lot of different things.
Well, and that's the fucking best thing about vampire. This is what our first episode was dedicated to. Right. I love the World of Darkness character creation system because anybody can be anything. Nothing's tied to anything. You can be a charismatic as fuck thug. You can be a thugged as fuck, like, charisma tank. Like, you can be whatever. You can be a Toreador with 5 potents. You've misspent many points on your way to get here, but you can do it, and that's beautiful. But yes, most likely the one that would jump out at you, with Norman Bates would be another for sure.
Or Giovanni, maybe.
Oh wow, weird.
Then he's not pretending to be his mother. He's somehow resurrected his mother as some sort of zombie.
They're so gross.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about my favorite, or one of my favorites, the top of the barrel, the Malkavians. The
Malkavian anti-tribute.
What?
Deep lore reach for you, everybody. No. The Camarilla Malkavians are actually the Splinter clan, as opposed to the other way around. They drove themselves sane in order to beg membership to the Camarilla, because sensibly for Malkavians. But we'll start to shed our lazier Malkavian jokes fairly early, but they're there to be made because that's the nature of the clan. But sensibly, they were like, we're not going to survive for shit. People don't like us already. Like, left in a room with one of us, any one of you would murder us. So we need to buddy up. We need to be part of your membership. Like, and what we will bring is sages, seers, prophets, and we will behave ourselves. And in order to behave ourselves, we were going to purge ourselves of some of our madness. Like, we're going to turn our backs on our legacy of dementation to take up the much safer shotgun of dominate. So they intentionally did it. They weren't quite Assamite clever, which, I know is your and my favorite story about the Assamites. Yeah. It's kind of like, oh no, not the blood curse.
No, you're doing it wrong. I mean, no.
No.
My plans, they have been foiled.
But yeah, they got together. They saw the way the wind was blowing, sometimes literally, because again, the idea is that, again, they started as a stereotype. They started as that one dude from the little crazy guy who speeds around and gets his head cut off by Louis, probably in Interview with the Vampire. Like, they're nuts. They're Renfields, right? They are largely Renfields as well, if you want to dive deeper back. But they've gone mad in a very non-PC, much more difficult thread to needle modernly, non-mentally ableist, terminology. But yeah, they're mad. They're mad in the old-fashioned sense. But beyond that, if you throw that back to the Middle Ages, which I think actually really helped them calcify a lot of their lore, they actually did a Middle Ages like supplement, a main core book. And I think taking some of the clans back to some of their glorier days helped them solidify how and why they got to modern knights. Yeah, back then you were touched. You were touched. You were fey touched. You were divinely inspired. You were possessed. It was the demons talking to you. But some of those people were fucking prophets. Go read the latter half of your Old Testaments, and those are some Malkavians talking. So yeah, they were touched. They were inspired. They had these great insights. And again, sometimes it was, tea leaf readers or sage things to say. So especially back then when they sold themselves as advisors, guiders, like people who could, and if they could only behave themselves long enough, they would prove their worth. And yeah, so you'll get all the horror stories about fish mouths, which is, I think I'm a fish, or I think I'm someone else all the time, and it's like, again, leave your laziness at the door if you can. Purge yourself of it. Like it's fun. If you want a beer and chips game and it's only supposed to last the night or whatever, be whoever you want. Absolutely.
The Malkavian who knows they're a role-playing game character.
100%.
Someone is
fucking go for it.
Yeah. But can you do? Yeah, exactly. One night, one mini campaign, do it. But yeah, if you're going for a campaign, think in 30 sessions. Will this still be fun, or will my other players have hated this since the middle of session 2?
Yeah. Or am I being problematic as fuck pretty quickly? Which again, yeah, maybe. And if your group all signs off on that because they're not that bothered and you're not broadcasting it on the internet, that's fine. Like, yeah, I'm not here to tone police your table, but it is a more modern time and we have all these other tools now built in. So just make sure everyone's cool with it and like actually cool with it. Don't be an ass. That's just a good warning. So the Malkavians are mad in the traditional sense. They come built in with some kind of derangement, which I'll bet you that term hasn't even aged well in general. But like, you've got something wrong, your brain broke, and you bring that into session 1. You've lived with that. Now it might have been their pre-embrace, or the embrace broke you. Like once you got turned into it, like this comes. It's not. You can spend a willpower point to ignore it for a turn, but that's about, or for a scene sometimes, but that's about as good as you're going to get. So, yeah, there's something wrong with you. You're schizophrenic. You have dissociative personality disorders. You've got, but more minor, and actually these are some of the things that I kind of actually like to have seen a more modern lens brought to, is you've got OCD, and not in the funny way. Like you need to turn the lights off 7 times every time, or something bad's going to happen, and something's bad
because you can see the future.
Yeah, like you can't leave the house like this, and regardless, it's real to you. So yeah, like you can definitely play with, some the more psychiatry, probably the better you can play a Malkavian. But
I think you can totally play this tastefully and interestingly, and yeah, you just have to not. You're not the Joker.
Yeah. Oh God, please don't. Yeah.
So have a care. Read a book.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of the early clan books kind of promoted this kind of thing. There's this whole grand prank kind of thing.
I don't like that part. I like everything else.
And the idea is you're supposed to make people question reality so that they know that it's real. And there's ways to do it. There's good fiction. I think the revised clan book got there a lot better. Like the revised clan book for all of them is much better than the original books are. And those are fun books, but so yeah, and in general, again, if the Bruja have deluded themselves to be gang toughs and foot soldiers, the Malkavians have kind of watered themselves down to being, the stray asylum scene in most movies made in the 90s of they're kind of just vacantly staring off into nothing, or kind of gibbering madmen or cackling asshats in some way, shape, or form. And so they don't add a lot. I think they did a lot, well, and we might have done a lot just at our table, kind of metafictionally, that Malkav's coming and he's going to like all of his children are kind of be his eyes and ears and hands and mouths in the world. And so even these farthest children are going to be able to suddenly like all turn in one voice and kind of be like, not cool, man, like or some other thing. But you can still make the sage, the prophet, the guy who's perfectly, perfectly easy to be around. I think the Jason, the world's voice, the card, but I believe he's the Malkavian Primogen of Milwaukee, and just a nice guy. He just like his derangement, so to speak, was he couldn't say no to people, so you could just bully him all the time. He was a real Andy.
Yeah.
Whatever
you say, but
you can't say no. But like just like the nicest dude. So absolutely, he's a yes man. He's a willing to go. He's going to get it done for you, whatever it takes. He will do it for you. You want the tie off his back, he will give you his tie. That's fine. Like he doesn't need it, he'll go get another tie. So yeah, you don't need to be a cackling madman. You don't need to be a stereotype in any kind of way. You can just look at things a different way. A conspiracy theorist was one of yours that I think is not hurting anybody. Fun to play, and you're not hatefully representing any one particular group or another. So yeah, with that in mind, because again, they haven't left their indelible mark on history since like the Dark Ages. So we don't need to talk about a whole lot of history of Malkavianness. Again, unfortunately, their watchword is madness, or alternate perception, or some other, kind of, they look at the world different. So with that in mind, Andrew, Malkavians jump out off the page at you?
Yeah, I CC played a Malkavian in Pittsburgh by Night. And her character was kind of just very anxious. Like that was, it was anxiety. You can be depressed. You can take, kind of the better understanding we have of a lot of mental health issues and play them realistically. Ones you may or may not suffer from, or live with rather. You can come at it from a very, I think you can do it well. So when I think of I played a Malkavian in, we didn't stream it, but in a home game where I was a conspiracy theorist who figured out that vampires were real, and they were like, "Well, okay, great, someone get him." But the kind of along the same lines, a sort of an Art Bell-esque person who is a conspiracy theorist who won't stop talking about all the stuff that in the world of darkness isn't real, like aliens or Sasquatches. Yeah. It's just like, I'm going to find aliens. Okay. I mean, I guess there are I feel like there are bigger fish to fry, but
you had to pass a werewolf, a mage, 2 actual fairies, and 3 ghosts that won't shut up.
No, aliens though.
But you're looking for okay.
Yeah. I, in the same way, Fox Mulder, I think would be a good Malkavian.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And interesting because then he's an FBI agent, like so he clearly has a use. Like he was an FBI agent. That dude is useful.
Yeah,
it's just now you needed him to not make it hot for vampires. So and Fox Mulder is very very much what my character, because he was a police officer kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of off the top of my head. Just a poet. I always thought a poet would be fun. Of someone who took a poetry class and showed up at open mic nights, and it's funnier to me if they're a shitty poet, like just the shittiest poetry. But the Malkavian in town said, "I see deep wisdom in your words." I said flowers were pretty a couple different times. I don't know why you bad touch. Don't come near me. What are you doing?
But flowers are pretty, man. Yeah. You sure said something there, partner. Yeah. And the idea that, at this point, it's an entire like production line of television shows from, the Detective in Hannibal to whatever the one with Michael Sheen is, like this idea that it's the serial killer or brilliant psychotic, like the sociopath or psychopath who is disconnected from all of y'all, but can see all of your patterns. And you could tell a Sherlock Holmes. You could do like any of all dramas made between like 2008 and 2014, I feel like all your houses and such. I think that's a great trope. Because again, they're brilliant. Their mind just is working up here, and they're not very good with people, or socialization. But again, it doesn't mean they can't work in groups. It just means that they don't communicate well or socialize well. I want to touch on something you said there, because the idea role playing is therapy. I am a convert, and a convert for life. Ever since I first took a character seriously, I've considered this style of play and this art form to be very, very helpful in addressing things that you can't control in your real life, or things you just want to explore, or other people that you want to be, or friends of yours that you want to sympathize with closer, and things like that. So, if you're diagnosed manic depressive and you want to kind of like role play through that and deduce a system with your storyteller of like, when I wake up, I want to roll 3 dice. And if it's a bad result, I'm having a down night. If it's a positive result, there's nobody better for the job than me right now, like that kind of thing. Like you can explore your own issues very well, with some safe distance, content warning. It's all of the shit that you're bringing to it. So just be sure that you want to sign up for that. Make sure that your storyteller's on board with it. Make sure your friends know and can check in on you that you're doing okay. Stuff like that. With those caveats out of the way, which again, I recommend that even if you feel like you're there. And also you can make it metaphors for addiction or anything else you might be struggling with. So there's definitely things to do there. Comedy-wise, I love Auntie Aubrey. I love any person who did so many drugs they didn't come back. Like that kind of I love the person who's talking in riddles that may or may not actually be anything. They make a better NPC because then the players have to wonder, are they in connection with something wiser? Because if you play it as a character, everyone's kind of like, you're full of shit, aren't you? Yep, called it session 1. He's full of shit.
But unless they're not full of shit and the GM is messaging them.
Oh yeah, get your storyteller on board with passing you notes randomly and just look up and nod. I actually pulled that off in a game where I was playing a Malkavian, and I was trying to protect something that was mine, and this is mine, so you can't have it. So I started like speaking. I was going to cast thaumaturgy on it. I just wrote a note to my storyteller at the time. Make me roll some dice and nod when I tell you the results. And he was just kind of like, roll, 4d6 or whatever. And I was like, okay. I rolled 4d10. Sorry. I know how many dice and what kind of dice you roll. So I rolled some dice and was just kind of like 3 or whatever. He's like, okay. And no one touched the thing for the entire, weeks later in the after session of hey, did you really have that thaumaturgy? I'm like, oh no, I was making all of that up. That was bullshit. But in order to make it look real, I rolled some dice. So if your other players aren't playing along or are immediately kind of like, it's the Malkavian, we don't have to listen to the Malkavian, get your storyteller on board to buy you back some respect and just kind of like, hey, Malkavians are people too, dude. You better watch out for what I can do.
They are still in the Camarilla for a reason.
For a reason, yeah.
You may not want them to be the prince of your city, but they are certainly a respected person in the city, because so their disciplines are, I don't think we actually said, are obfuscate. Or obfuscate. They can create kind of blend into stealth. It's stealth, and it's stealth. A minor shadow manipulation, but that's more obtenebration. But you can make cameras not see you and shit like that, pass without a trace, basically. Obfuscates, dementation. You can. It's not dominator presence. You're temporarily breaking other people's minds, basically.
Yeah.
And then Ospe, which are sort of generic psychic powers. You can sort of read minds. You can read auras. You can see the future. You can't move things with your minds, but sort of the ESP of psychic powers.
Yeah, the kind of original Marvel Girl suite, without the telekinesis.
So, having a person who can see the future is very helpful. Having someone who can read a vampire's mind and be like, they're lying.
Yeah.
That's useful.
Or read the past of this was used to the murder.
Oh, right, telemetry or whatever it's called.
Do not tell murder mysteries with people with Ospe involved.
Or one of the earliest
ones. Or Auspex, if you prefer.
Yes. One of the earliest powers they get is they can just read auras. And I just love it. It's just like, who here's mad?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh my God, they're perfect hunters. And that's such a great, because it makes them empaths. And empathy can break you. Like, when you see how everyone in a room feels, it's hard not to do the kind of like comedy tragedy masks of like, fuck, like, you know, the book on River Tam in Firefly,
Firefly
is that she can't not feel things, right? Like she is a nerve stripped bear to the point where, and that's why she's so zany and mad or whatever you would classify the character as, but because she can't not feel things. So reading everyone's aura, or like being kind of a psychic chameleon in a way that like you feel whatever the person who you're with feels. So you just keep reflecting back whatever anybody else is doing. You don't really have a mood of your own. Aura reading makes it perfect to like kind of a fun role playing tool there. Yeah, so I love the idea of the government spook who got too close and is now in on it. And I love the idea of looking past all the obvious supernatural things. Yeah, that's a known commodity man who's really pulling the strings.
I know about vampires.
Yeah. Hippy Dippy did all the acid and never came back.
Embraced at Woodstock, and they just think it's just been Woodstock the whole time.
It's just been Woodstock, man. And closed our prison. I'm just bringing it up again at this Camarilla meeting. Wasn't heard last time, I didn't feel, but here we are. Still wearing clothes. Yeah, let's see. Can we... I mean, right now we've got so many actual conspiracy theories. It's almost not fun to play.
I was thinking earlier. I was just saying, would I even want to play the conspiracy? I mean, first of all, just rife for when I played Wally, I googled conspiracy theories and I was having a hard time coming up with good ones because this was a couple years ago. Now you just go to QAnon or whatever on Wikipedia and
just open Facebook. And
scroll down. I got. You know, a couple people I went to high school with. I've unfollowed them or unfriended them long ago, but I can just go check it out and figure out what
I could follow any of their YouTube links, and I guarantee you, I'd come back a changed man. But yeah, even, like to make it slightly funnier. Oh, well, I don't know if it's funnier or not, but like, yeah, just the satanic panic mom, like who everything's always for the children, everything's coming for your children. It believes literally every hysterical trend. Rainbow parties and those bracelets and all that thing. Like, just is constantly afraid of the children. And meanwhile, is like a 50-year-old been a vampire, so has no actual children of their own. And just also randomly abducts children to protect. And I think that's terrifying.
Yeah, and is also a huge threat to children. They're a vampire.
Yes, absolutely. You are a candy witch at this point, and you need to stop. They shake her down for loose children every time she enters Elysium.
Gladys, you gotta stop that.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Liz is the question from the JLU cartoon. Wally was 100% the question.
A billion percent. And again, notice a very canny detective in the moral center of that season. Like the question ends up being the only one who's right in that season. So yeah, it can be fun or funny or a little problematic so long as all your friends are having fun. But like, yeah, have a point. Don't be the fish mouth or whatever, which again, I've never actually played with a fish mouth. But one of my favorites, going off your poet idea, and I had someone who was particularly rude about it, even though they were right, which is, if I have to hear one more Malkavian, is they're this, but they're really this. But it's fair. Most Malkavians do start with that. But it was a Malkavian who had been masquerading as a Toreador for, like, at that point, years on decades. And they made really shitty art and then challenged everyone to despise it in the way that kind of, like, art world goes. Everyone was like, it's brilliant. She's really captured drawing like a child again, you know, which is something, by the way, Picasso famously saw. Like, he was trying to re-embrace that freedom of being able to not care how things look. That's why Picasso's things look like that. He understood how bodies worked. He wanted to disunderstand how bodies worked. So that kind of like highfalutin, prosody like art crap repackaged and sold to Toreador, where they all had to force there and be like, Brave. It's Brave, I think.
Have you ever seen...
It's a paper bag.
Oh, painted white. Yep.
Painted white.
Have you ever seen Exit Through the Gift Shop?
No.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a Banksy documentary where he just finds this random dude and makes him an artist, and everyone has to be like, "Wow, how brave!" It's because Banksy said he was good, but you're just like, "This isn't anything," and you just be Mr. Brainwash.
Yeah. So, and then that character played a cat's paw role in The End of the World, but. Yeah, in that grand prank scenario, I don't love grand prank shit because a lot of times it just ends up being you're the asshole at the table. But if you can use it in some kind of levered way that is fun or informative or everyone's on board with, then feel free. I skip those chapters. Okay. Let's talk about Max Schreck.
Let's talk about the Nosferatu, which I think is hysterical that it's the clan is 1,500 year ancient. They're ancient. And really, there was a movie in like 1930 named Nosferatu, just conveniently.
They thought it was an image campaign, and it just backfired terribly. I do believe because he's Count Orlo, right? But the actor was Max Schreck.
The actor is Max Schreck, which is a villain name. I think it's Count Orlok. I think there's a
Count Orloff, something like that. Yeah, Orlok. Yeah, I think so. I think canonically Max Schreck was a Nosferatu or something. That then
there's a movie with John Malkovich about that, right? How he's actually a vampire.
Yeah, and again, it's just Dracula with the fucking serial number filed off, which is even better. A great movie, fantastic storytelling
for sure,
for its time. Great effects. But they are hideous monsters. That like full stop. But more or less, you can play with that a little bit. They're unnerving to be around, or they're just unsettling. But the bite twists and contorts their flesh. They have an appearance of zero. That's their flaw. They're forced to the edges and shadows of society. They often live in sewers. The revised clan book gave a great kind of twist on that writ large, which was like they were river bank kind of dwelling vampires. So back to like Africa and the Nile and things like that, they would sleep on the riverbanks. So they've always had this kind of weird association with moving water and like underground places. It was a good like throwback way of kind of making this has always been true. Because what did we do before sewers? Well, they lived on the banks of rivers and things, and buried themselves in mud and lived with alligators and stuff because they have animalism. Mm-hmm. The Nosferatu, they're hideous monsters. They are physically twisted. They're hunched back, long, spidery fingers. They look like Max Schreck. They got bat ears, and Bat Boy famously is kind of a pseudo-canonical Nosferatu. If you remember your 90s and early aught
tabloids.
I seem to remember Bat Boy being closely associated with Hillary Clinton at some point for some reason.
No, I think I remember it being Princess Diana, but it's just different eras.
Okay, sure.
I'm sure it was both because just whoever was popular at the time.
Bat Boy got around like many Nosferatu do. Yep. Batman Returns Penguin probably is a quick, easy reference if you need one, because especially the idea that you flush it, we find it is a big central tenet of the kind of Nosferatu brand. They're information brokers. They're the ones under the sewer grate that you can't see listening to your conversation. You tried to flush it or shred it. They found it and had all the nights in the world to tape it back together. They find all your disregarded things and bring them back to you to blackmail or information broker you. They make great whisper campaigns. They make very good seneschals and kind of number two guys in cities. They don't tend to be princes. They don't even tend to want to be princes. They want to be the power from the shadow because, in general, they know they look like this.
Right.
They're a little self-conscious as any thinking thing would be. Some of them embrace it and just kind of like, fuck you, I'm supposed to be here or whatever. But for the most part, they know. They see it. They have a mirror. Well, they have a shined up hubcap that they hang on the wall. But you get
it's close enough.
Close enough. They see themselves in windows.
Yeah, sometimes if there's a lot of rainwater, the sewer runs clear enough they can see themselves in the reflection.
Yeah, it's like, ugh, ooh. I am off-putting.
Yikes.
See the impression I'm putting out there?
I look like this every day? Every day?
I would not like to be other people talking to me.
Every night.
Every night.
Every night.
I have it on good authority. Your developer and or editor will correct your days to nights if you slip days into your vampire product.
We'll find and replace.
Just do a find and replace. It's fine. But yeah, they're shadow brokers. That's their big thing is they're information getters. They're also kind of survivors. You know, they're the most superficially monsters, but also in a lot of ways tend to be kind of bigger-hearted people because they have sympathy for, look, when you don't have your looks left, what do you have? You've got whoever you are inside. And so they are pretty good at looking past people's worst features to see good in people. I feel like they're the clan that a lot of people want to create sweethearts in, actually. Even there are plenty of Nosferatu monsters out there, and I think that's perfectly valid, too. Because, again, if everyone spits on and reviles you and doesn't want to invite you to parties, you get a hard skin up pretty quick.
Yeah, and that's Nosferatu
societies, then.
Yeah, Nosferatu are, at this point, arguably my favorite clan. I think Malkavians are like my first love because one of the reasons why I like them so much is I played a bunch of them in the card game because they're super good in the card game. But but Nosferatu, I love all the ways you can go with I'm a monster and I look like it. So either fuck you, I'm not that bad, or fuck you, you're just like me, you just don't have the audacity to look like it. Like, you're a monster, too, and you're just pretending to be a person still. I know I'm a monster.
Yeah, like, I can't escape it. I think there's even, like, a straight-up chapter about that in one of the clan books. It's so good. Yeah, that's a great take.
And just that they're, they're so, they're just gross and weird, but they're so necessary to Kindred. Like, just the way Kindred society has built itself, this is kind of stupid, pointless power brokering. It's just like, you're not getting anywhere without me. Like, and you may spit on me all you want. You may pretend like you don't need me until you need me, which is all the fucking time. Yeah, no, they're so great. Yeah, I think if you were flipping through a book for the first time, you would skip over them readily. Like, just kind of like, I don't get it. The minute someone with an inkling of passion about them describes them to you, they will be your new favorite clan because they are so cool that way. And as you mentioned, there's they can literally look like monsters and just be weird and body horror if you want, or they can just put off this super unsettling aura. Like one of the vampire cards is, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like the Prince of Cleveland or something like that. Even like he's a titled, and he's just this really. He just looks creepy, like, and in a way that only art can truly exude. Like if you look at this as a person, you'd be like, he's just got a bow tie on. He's just a little dorky or whatever. But he's just got this. His face is too round, and he's got like an overbite or an underbite, and his eyes just aren't like he looks like a person, but he's unsettling. It's uncanny valley.
There's an uncanny valley to him, yeah.
I don't think I like this, and I don't think I like you.
Good day, sir. I think yeah.
Good night, sir.
Good night. They are. Search and replace. Control F. Why did I keep saying day? So yeah, and long storied history. Again, they tend not to be the person in the spotlight. Dun-dun-dun. Like they tend to be the person behind the throne. If you need a second gunman on a grassy knoll, it was probably Nosferatu what put him there or something like that. Like they are the boogeyman. They are the thing that goes bump in the shadow. Like they are that. Like they are the thing hiding under your bed. They are the vampire that's going to do that. But once you get there, it's all Nightmare Before Christmas kind of style of just kind of like they're just kind of like just bug with you, Got your nose. I'll give it back. All right, quit crying, kid. You're fine. Spend a blood point, you'll heal it. Ooh, you can't do that. So yeah, they don't leave the biggest footprint in history because you're not looking at the right footprint. It is more or less it. So, yeah. With that said, let's kick out some Nosferatu jams.
Sorry, Liz in chat says, so they're that seedy toady character that's always played by that one British character actor. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good take.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nosferatu's disciplines, their flaw is that they look like this. You can see it on the screen.
Yep. Oh, good.
Their disciplines are animalism, potence, and obfuscate. So they are good at staying hidden to hide themselves, because just being in public breaks the masquerade, basically. So you can put like kind of an uneasy camouflage over yourself that makes you look normal but slightly off-putting.
Yeah,
it's like a terrible disguised self.
Yeah.
Potence, they're big and strong. They can be big and strong. And animalism, often they are, as Marty said, associated with sewer-dwelling creatures or pigeons. I think pigeons would be, because they're just everywhere. So no one's going to notice if a pigeon is just kind of staring at you weird. Like, oh, that's slightly weird, but the pigeon is listening to you for the Nosferatu.
And it's going to go back and report all your nonsense.
So one of the things, Dimitri from Pittsburgh by Night was a Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
And he started one way, and then as I played, he became slightly another way, where he was the kind of the more, I'm mad at everyone because I am obviously broken on the outside, and none of you are, so how dare you? But then as we were playing, especially Dagny, who was also in some way, clearly being a vampire isn't great, like this did something to her too, he became, well, I have sympathy for others affected, but if you get to be pretty and you just have 18 points of presence or whatever, I don't like you.
I don't care for it. Yeah.
But if we had continued kind of going with that, if Jay's character had started getting kind of animalistic characteristics and stuff like that, I would have been like, yep, yeah, you get it. Not as much as me, but you get it.
Yeah, but you get it. Yeah, well, I find that so fascinating. It was a really good character, which again, God bless you, like just play some more of the darkness. It immediately builds empathy. Like I really do think it's an empathy engine. Creating another human being the way that it makes you create another human being, I just think immediately endears you to other people and all the shitty little weaknesses that make people up. But I did find that journey so fascinating because, you were like, I'm obviously broken on the outside. You can't compete. You can't relate. And then you watch Dagny, obviously so broken on the inside. And then, like, became her caretaker for most of that adventure, just kind of like, well, fuck. I don't want something else to happen.
Right.
I can resent all of you motherfuckers, but this one's clearly having a bad time. Yeah. A bad time's a bad time, and I'm going to be here for it. Like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I can't describe enough that the weird, shitty, do you want to play a Lost Boy game is one of the most beautiful storytelling devices you can tell with your friends. It really is. It builds.
But you did such a good job of making every other Nosferatu just horribly, like just shady as hell. Like I can't remember his name, but the Fagin type of just like he was literally Phantom of the Opera. Like he had the mask and shit, and he's just the scummiest dude. And like, no, I don't like you. Why would I like you? Like you aren't likable. I don't care if you're my sire. His name was Eric. I think his name was Eric. But like now I don't. Now you're the worst. And then you have to show up and play pretend at this stupid cardboard meeting house where we're pretending it's AA or something.
Yeah. When Warrens, which is what they tend to call Nosferatu, like collective havens, Warrens, because they live underground, I'm sure. It's just a gross, shitty word. I just always try to imagine any sophomore dorm.
Sure.
I'll do it. A lot of leftover food. You guys don't even eat. Why is this here? It's just to attract rats. There's better ways to attract rats, Jerry, like with your fucking mind. clean your side of the sewer.
Bunch of Jim Belushi posters that people throw out after college.
Yeah. It's wall-to-wall Scarface, Jim Belushi,
Kurt Cobain,
Che Guevara.
Yep.
Oh, God damn it. We need to play an On Nosferatu campaign now.
You know I am down.
I know you are. Yeah, also, like, the idea that they live in the sewers and surrounded by, like, rat and pigeon messengers or whatever, they also tend to, like, whenever you hear those, like, urban gator mythologies, they have made terrifying, like, gator ghoul wardens as part of these, like, underground labyrinths.
Yes. A snake. I heard a snake came up through my cousin's neighbor's toilet. It bit him right on the ass. That's not
absolutely
real. The Nosferatu in the corner is nodding.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fear that my Nosferatu brain tends to go. Oh, that's right. I had one a little bit. Again, to try and betray the easy one, which is they're all information brokers, right, and you flush it, we find it kind of thing. I think a slumlord. Mm-hmm. Lives in the basement. You know, you knock on the door, but they never come out the way that they do in like various sitcoms or Spider-Man movies or whatever. You know, you only hear from them when they're haranguing you for the rent you're due. You tell them like, hey, I need my pipe fixed. And then overnight it's fixed. And that's weird, right? Like, you don't like that. Like, yeah, like I think there's something inherently creepy about that. But also as a player, I can play that. I have a source of income. I have a source of information, but I have a haven. But I can also go out if I need to, because I'll get to it. You know, I was never home anyway. And I have a bolt hole that chewed out the back of my apartment. And that's how I get in and out without it. The front door is permanently locked.
Right.
No one knows where that key is. I've made sure.
It's the deadbolt that needs the key on both sides, and you lost that key 50 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that idea, because again, it puts them in direct contact with people, and arguably a herd even, in an interesting way to me. Like that, again, I think is easily playable, very plausible, and again, you know, they're necessarily above ground, but it doesn't put them out of contact.
Yeah,
with
the super showed up, and all of a sudden, you know, knocks on the door, and you do see them, but the hall light went out all of a sudden, and you just they're definitely a person, and they have facial features. You can't really remember any of them, and you woke up with the worst headache. The pipe's fixed, but
yeah, because like Obfuscate was almost more made for them than anybody, because Obfuscate 1 is you just kind of ignore them. They're there. They're physically visible and interactable, but your mind keeps wanting to skip them. So you can be hideous as all get out, but people are just kind of like, oh, I don't want to look at that, right? Like your brain is playing a trick on you. They actually, as they move forward in the editions, they kind of made it more a mental thing than a physical thing. You're not physically turning invisible. People just don't see you anymore.
Right.
Like, so it starts with you kind of just cloud their mind to like they just don't. Like if you're in a crowd of 5, they will count 4 people 3 times in a row. Like, no, that can't be right. Am I counting myself? I'm not counting. No, I'm 1 short. Okay, hold on. Let me start over. 1, 2, nope, 3, 4. Yeah, no, I can't do it. And it like you can hide behind impossibly small objects like Batman hiding behind a gumball machine and HeroClix. Always love that. And then you're truly turning invisible and turning groups of people invisible.
Right.
But again, you're more what's the +10 to stealth in Vampire 5?
Wait, no. Pass without a trace.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Pass without a trace. Yeah.
Pass without a trace.
Mask of 1,000 Faces. Oh, yeah, and you can change your appearance. But again, there tends to be this storytelling note that even if you're a Nosferatu and you make yourself look handsome, there's just something like scummy about you. Like you're a real Chad. Like, do not follow that guy to a second location. You are not coming back.
You're John Hamm and Kimmy Schmidt. It's like...
Yeah, like...
You have that ridiculous beard and terrible ponytail. It's just like, well, you are technically a very handsome man, but you've made some weird choices.
There's no sir. You were going to knock me unconscious and put me in the back of a van. No, I will not. No, I will not follow you.
But a couple. This is a Nosferatu I've wanted to play for a while, and we've talked about this before. But the guy who just loves animals so much, and he's so mad that people would ever like mistreat a dog. Like if you get your dog taken away by the SPCA, or he just hears that a dog whining and shows up, and you're doing something not good to it. You are dead and drained of blood because you don't deserve to live. Animals are the only good thing. Humans and vampires suck.
That's right. No, I love that.
Yeah. So just
I love that so much.
Yeah. This dude who, well, dogs don't judge you. They just love you. It doesn't matter. A cat who loves you, you have done something to earn their trust. And I think technically, usually animals don't like vampires in general because they just know you're not a person.
Yeah.
So, but you can take you can take a merit that lets you be okay with animals, and absolutely necessary for this character. But
and again, you have points in animalism. Obviously, you can kind of just be
talk to that dog.
I will work with you.
Yeah.
And actually, if there isn't an actual merit as your storyteller, I'd be like, there's a merit.
I'm pretty sure there is. Like, you're inoffensive to animals. It's just like you can eat. Like, it's just you get rid of one of the vampire downsides.
Yeah, it's probably even a 1-point merit now that I'm thinking of it.
But then the other kind of there is a stereotype in Nosferatu of occasionally they will punish a beautiful person by you were too vain. Therefore, you get to look like this for the rest of your life. Enjoy. You enjoy.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life.
You know that scene in 7 that's just pride or whatever it is? Yeah, it's that one.
It's just that again. And then the other one I kind of always thought was a neat concept. This might be in Lore of the Clans or something like that. But it's the connoisseur of fine things, where they dress in ridiculously nice clothing, perhaps out of date. But like a crushed velvet suit kind of thing, like a house coat, and they just collect like antiques and other beautiful things from throughout time, and they look like a monster still, but they're surrounding themselves with beautiful things and interesting things throughout time, or historically important things. They stole the real copy of the Declaration of Independence. That's real. That's real. Actually,
that's an orig. Yeah,
I was there.
It's
exclusive. It's a
convention exclusive. And by that I mean
the Constitutional Convention.
The Constitutional Convention. Yeah. Had to be there. No, and actually, I like that guy, like in an old plantation house.
Yeah, very.
It's like
Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, oh, he's old money.
Yeah.
No, older than that.
And
like
invented paper currency.
Yeah. And his house abuts a swamp because, of course, it does. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
And he might, as you've mentioned a couple of times, he might be a better NPC than a PC. If you have to go to this creepy old house and you're like, all this stuff's beautiful. Oh, okay, cool. You're terrible looking.
Yeah, not to make it the last show I saw as the source of all my references, but there is an episode of Atlanta that very much applies to this.
Yeah, where Donald Glover is being a weird Michael Jackson-y person.
Yeah. But like, again, he's not physically hideous, but there is nothing right about that guy. Like, and so even there, that's a mask of 1,000 faces or just something.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
He has a Shamishi friend who's not great at their job.
Okay. We have 3 more clans to do, but it is 9:30. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel it would be negligent to not finish, but yeah, it's a terrible place to start the turbo round because I love the Toreador so much. But
we could. Okay, so I'm good to go for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom real fast though.
Okay.
So
I'll trade you. You go first, and I will entertain the troops. And,
okay.
Although I can't see the chat, so sorry, you can't ask me questions.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'll answer the chat when I come back. I'll be right back.
Okay. So yeah, ask Andy my questions. So let's see. And again, these are just the 7. And boy, Andy and I did think we would have trouble filling time, and that was foolish of us. I cannot just define enough, and I've said it across 3 videos now, what a great, robust system this is. It's one of the reasons that I came into, like in 4th edition D&D, I hated that they were still tying things to like race and class like that, because it limited you immediately, that there was a best way to play anything. If you're going to play a ranger, you should be an elf. If you were going to play a thief, you should be a halfling or whatever, because they necessarily complemented each other. you can throw all of that out the window in the World of Darkness character creation system. You can just be bad at what you're supposed to be good at. You can be good at it based on nothing. Like you can be a charismatic. If anybody remembers during the character creation portion, you pick a primary, secondary, and tertiary. Like so, you have physical, mental, and social. You can be a primary social Nosferatu. There's nothing that prohibits that. You just can't spend any points in appearance. So you are just maxed out on charisma and manipulation. You are a glib, silver-tongued devil who's just really, really hard to like. Cannot stress enough. Very hard to look at. So you can be a Bruja with physical is tertiary. You don't give a shit about physical strength. Your strength is in your mind and in your ability to sway crowds and out chess play your opponents. No one thing hinges on another thing. You're not hidebound to it. There's the stereotype, and you might be stepping outside of that stereotype, but you are not bound to it. You don't need to be the stereotype. And the possibilities are literally endless, and it just I love it so much. I was just talking about the various ways that I just love the World of Darkness character creation system, and that your race and class isn't tied together. You don't need to be a charismatic or a strong Bruja, and you can be a charismatic as fuck Nosferatu. I'm going to go pee now. Yep. If there's any questions in chat. Yep.
Liz said I was gone so you could rebel.
Very good.
Yeah. I mean, I loved. That's one of the things I like so much about the system, is you can just play the stereotype of the clan, especially if you're learning the system, you're learning the lore. Do it. Like it. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. It's all awesome, as long as you're not hurting anybody with real world stereotyping. But sort of. Hold on a second. Oh, come on. I have a wireless mouse, and for some reason it's very laggy when OBS is open. I haven't had any problems with it other than that, so maybe I have to adjust it somehow. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so totally play the stereotype. Totally like embrace that. But then if you've played for a while, or even if you haven't, do something different and cool. Do something that appeals to you and you think would be funny or fun and interesting and turning things on its head. The Charming Nosferatu. That was the basic premise of Dimitri. It's, yes, the Nosferatu need someone to talk for them. They're important to kindred society. That doesn't mean everyone will always see their importance or listen, because a lot of people can't get past first impressions, and that sucks. And so that sort of interesting thing. Anyway, we're both back. Hello, everybody. Okay, so we have 3 more clans to talk about. So, or anything else you want to say about the Nosferatu? I think I've said.
No, yeah. I find I love creating Nosferatu NPCs. I don't excel at Nosferatu PCs because they're necessarily removed in a lot of ways. They have to put effort into even being above ground and stuff like that. So they just tend to not be where my brain goes. I love Nosferatu and I love Nosferatu NPCs. But yeah, I think I've said my piece. The Nosferatu landlord, I think that would be mine.
Mm-hmm. And tying into that and going back a little bit, I think you could also do a Nosferatu shady motel owner. Like
absolutely.
Especially if you have a lot of points in obfuscates and you could just kind of Mask of 1,000 Faces all the time, and you're like, the people checking in are like, did the guy behind the desk seem weird? Seemed weird, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I feel great about staying here, but it's the only place in 50 miles. Like, okay, we'll just leave early. It's fine.
No, I feel like we should pull a first edition clan book, and at the end of every one of our descriptions, we'll go back and fix it at the edit. At the end of every one of our clan concepts, we'll be like, and I'm thinking a creepy motel owner.
Yeah, I think it works for all of them.
But again, like, back to what I was saying and what it sounded like you were saying some version of. Yeah, yes, all of them work for every one of them. There's no concept that is hidebound to one clan. You can be an ugly Bruja. Look, you can have, probably stuck at appearance 1, but you can do it.
Yeah.
You can get disfigured like a 5-point flaw or something like that. I believe in you. Anyway, so let's go with my 5th most favorite clan.
Let's talk about one of your faves.
Yeah, the Toreador. Boy, man, I would love to be a fly on the wall when they were like, Toreador, nailed it. That perfectly describes it. Spanish bullfighters standing in for, and boy, they went around their ass to their elbow in the revised clan book, by the way, though, to make a great explanation for why they're called the Toreador. It's gross. It's so dumb and great, and I love it.
Their symbol's a little rose.
And their symbol's a rose, yes. But yeah, they're the pretty one. They are the socialites. They are the artistes. They are the poseurs. They are the socialites. They are the Hasidity. They are the don't talk to the help. They are the love talking to the help. They are much like the Bruja. They are the most watered down in modern knights, I find, and I love that about them. And I hope to talk more about that. While at the same time being one of the most powerful clans, period, because much like the Bruja can whistle up 40 dudes right now. Like, I can get you foot soldiers, and they're going to be listening to me. So you might control the city. We're about to see how quickly I can test that by having protests in downtown, Portland now. The Toreadors, similarly, are very close to humans. And they can disappear among them, and they can get them to do what they want because they're the pretty ones that influence them and make people do what they want. So they also move at the speed of people. They are much more in touch because they understand what TikTok influencers are right now, you old fucking crusty douchebags. Well, none of you do. Like, they're making fun of boomers right now, and that person's 500 years old. Like, but again, presume that they are shallow, and they will have cut your entire fucking legs out from under you. They're movers of ideas. But yeah, artist tends to be the watchword. That tends to be the big nameplate. That's what it says on the door. Toreador are the artists. You can take that. Everyone's played the martial artist. That's an art, dude. It's actually really beautiful if you do it right. Fuck. So many Buster Swords. There's the other concept we're going to put in every clan. Fuck. But also, like, the dude who, this was immediately not cool, Fred Durst. Like, you were the best thing selling for exactly 2 years and are immediately uncool, and we're stuck with you forever.
That is my favorite take on on Swing will never die. It died again. Oh, it briefly came back. Yeah, it's dead again.
Yeah, I know. Where were you, Brian Setzer? I was ready. Because the reason that the clan's the most watered down, alongside with the Bruja, where the Bruja are kind of like, hey, you're my number one guy. Like, you're it. I'm going to embrace you. You're a modern warrior. You're a warlord. You're this gang leader. I'm embracing you. You come back the next night and there's 30 more Bruja. He's like, yeah, man, I embraced the whole gang. What do you need us to do? It's like, fuck, I need you to have not embraced the whole gang. I need you to have not embraced any. Oh, I should have been more specific. Toreador, specifically, their weakness, their clan weakness, built into their bloodline. As soon as you're embraced, you have this. Night 2. They can be transfixed by beauty. Beauty being writ large. There is no specific definition for it. If it plays into your character type or your storyteller is being kind of a douche about it, they can be like, the amount of Toreador that have died by watching their last sunset because they got transfixed at sunrise is because, it is apocryphally legendary. But this also means that they saw your concert, where you were just kind of a girl and a guitar and just hit that one note, and they were transfixed by your beauty, and you had to live forever. Like they're all had these fucking poet souls, so they're all just kind of like, oh, I see in you the greatest beauty of all time. They embrace you, and like the next night, you got nothing in common, and you're just kind of like, ooh, I've made an oopsie. Like the amount of Toreador that were embraced just because they were pretty and this poor dumb poet couldn't imagine a world without you. You are the waves breaking across the shore, and you were just, ooh, there's nobody home, huh? Just nothing. Yikes! The lights are on and nobody's home. Okay, well, it's going to be along forever. Good luck to you. And yeah, like, because they're also taken up in these passionate, like, and everyone's just exhausted with them at court, you know, because they're just kind of like, oh, stop it. Like, you know, they've written books since Jane Austen, right? Like, you know, like, yeah, and I love that though, because they're probably the most useless Toreador, like walking around just squawking at each other, and it's so tiresome and put upon. But like among them though, I actually like the idea of like, okay, so Swing went out of style. What else are you doing? And that person might rise to greatness because they have to find something else to do, or someone just becomes a really good, like, you embrace them because they're pretty. Well, pretty never goes out of style. It mildly changes its face a little bit, but that person can go into any, whatever. What are salons these days? I'm here, honey. What are we doing? Party drugs? I'm here. I'm with you, girl. You know, like that person will be evergreen in their ability to walk into a club, feed, and get the fuck out. That person can survive forever. Meanwhile, your crusty ass who still thinks Stratocasters are great or whatever, you know, like you're finding it increasingly hard to get people back to your bungalow to see your grave rubbings. You know, like, yeah, like watch. And again, it should be no surprise that I love simple thinkers who think that they're deep, but those people are terribly resourceful. Like those people survive in ways that I just can't imagine. So I think that's actually fun and cool that a bunch of these worthless fucking people are trying to find places for themselves and might achieve great worth. Alexis Rose.
I was just about to say Alexis Rose from Schitt's Creek.
Yeah. My current fucking spirit animal, Alexis Rose, I adore her so much. But yeah, is a great example of just, someone who just needed 200 years to figure it out. And now, you know what?
And I
am going to move to New York on my own.
Yeah, and you might just at a glance think they're pretty, and then even talking to them for 20 minutes, you're like, oh, well, there's okay, I guess. And then talking to them for an hour, and you're like, you have how many driver's licenses in different countries? You could drive an F-class truck?
I had to move a lot of people.
Isn't that transport vehicles? Like, anytime she opens her mouth and it just says, like, that she escaped from the Yakuza in high heels, I'm like, I fucking love you. Like, you're the best.
Yeah, it truly... No, Alexis Rose is my spirit animal. And because of all the Escape the Room bit is so fucking good because you've built this lore around her that she's escaped X amount of Saudi princes in her lifetime. And yet that person is infinitely resourceful and they will do what it takes to survive and not think a second thought about it and think you're weird for thinking it's weird that that they know how to get out of more than 7 trunks of conventional automobiles.
And sticking with Schitt's Creek for a second, Moira also could be a Toreador. When she thinks her acting career is over, she gets into politics, and she's pretty great at it.
Yeah.
She, because there is a controversy that she immediately spins herself out of. I was just like, oh, this is gonna, oh, she did it. Oh, that would work. Yeah. No, she's just great. Or David, who, you just think you're just sort of some sort of art gallery weirdo, and he's a very successful small business owner. Yeah.
Well, and even there, boy, we've really turned Schitt's Creek into a Toreador metaphor, but it ain't bad.
No, I think it works.
But even there, like the idea of like, well, who says I have to be successful by all those means? I can just live well. I don't need to be famous or rich anymore. Like, I've had 200 years of chasing that fucking dragon, and I just realized, no thanks. Yeah, I'm going to live with this dude who appreciates me. In this house he bought because I said it was nice. Like, fuck. No, now we're going to start talking about Schitt's Creek. Anyway, spoilers in parts for Schitt's Creek. None of it deals with the resolution, but a lot of it deals with the...
Too egregious, but...
No, but yeah, like... Yeah, God, I just love, because again, they just have the most amount of just pure ass civilians walking around the Elysium, like just kind of like, and you call yourself Blossom or other people call you Blossom? Okay. That is the third time you have drank champagne and spit it immediately back up. You can't drink liquid anymore. Can someone get her a? Does she have an adult? Is there a sire here I can blame?
Who did you come with?
Were you left here?
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's fire station rules, right? If you leave a Toreador in Elysium, someone has to take care of her.
Is that why you're carrying the basket? I'm just catching that now. Gotcha. You couldn't fit in the basket. So yeah, and again, the amount of Kai-Tiff that are just unclaimed Toreador, it must be off the charts because you wake up next to somebody, you sired, and you're kind of like, ugh. And you bolt out of there before they wake up and have no idea what they're doing in the world. It's criminally negligent, and it's adorable, and I love it. That said, scraping the bottom of the barrel, which I will do all day. I created Freya Darkmoon. I am not above playing any amount of exotic dancers who are embraced in a fit of pique. But yeah, let's talk about some tour. Oh, and they're high movers in the Camarilla, by the way. We're kind of talking about the bottom of the barrel. These people are the second most princes in the world.
Yeah, they are super important.
They are super important. I have buried the lead for sure in talking about Alexis Rose. They are also like canny and hyper competent politicians and brand managers.
Because their discipline spread is celerity; they can move fast, which is a good metaphor both like physically and mentally. Like they're just smarter than you. Like
and also lets them dance supernaturally.
So celerity, auspex. They can also see the future, and guess what? They're sort of almost a little less annoying than Malkavians sometimes.
Yeah,
they might just be more tolerable, or they might not be.
Or they might not be. It really depends.
And presence, so they're supernaturally. You just can't look away from them. Like that's so. Yeah, they are important.
People just want to do what I say, David. I don't control it.
Moira Rose, the Toreador. Anybody watching who's got to create a vampire? There you go.
There you go. We've given you several in one show only. Yeah, so they're not as vulgar as Dominate. They control crowds. You can control one person, that's cute. I can make this entire club turn on you right now. And that's always like in Elysium, which is, by the way, like it's when the Camarilla meets, they kind of are like, hey, PCs, like no touching. Everyone like has to be nice. That's Elysium. I keep using the word and haven't defined it.
But, for sure.
But yeah, whenever the Camarilla meets, the Toreador are cutting shitty little bitches. Like they are like absolutely, they're pantsing you in front of everyone without making a move. We talked a bit in the earlier versions, like social tanks work, especially in Vampire. Like in Werewolf, you're probably going to get your ass beat like a lot. They're going to let you live, but like no one likes the smart ass. You're going to find out pretty quickly. But like in Vampire, you can win the game without ever like unfolding your hand. Like I've mentioned my closest approximation to a vampire that I'm playing right now on stream is the Jedi Master, who for the most part doesn't take her hands out of her pockets until just that last episode, which she did. Like, because you affect the world around you. And like, as someone, as some Bruja comes in, is just going to like, fucking get up and fight me, bitch. It's just kind of like, you're going to find it really hard to leave. I'm telling you now, you might cross this table and put your hands on me, and that'll be the last thing your dumbass ever does. So that's fun, and you can leave now. One whip crack raised eyebrow, they can kill you in court, kind of thing. Like in the kind of petty mean girlsness that is Vampire Society at a certain level. It is not unlike high school. But yeah, they are killers. They are social killers of men. They are great.
And if they do have to physically confront them, as any comic book nerd can tell you, super speed is broke as hell.
It is broke as hell. Broke as all hell.
Yeah. Now, I'm faster and smarter than you, and I can see the future.
So, pretty dope, actually. Yeah. Good luck, Monstro. So, See, oh boy, we do not have. I could do an entire 2 hour stint on just Beckett and just Toreador, because there is no limit. Like the guardrails are artists. Like you could literally take that in any way. It doesn't have to be an artist. It can be a socialite in some other way. You can be bad at it. And I love that this game system encourages you to be bad at it because you were embraced when swing was big, and that immediately went into style. Like
I love the idea that the Prince of Atlantic City or something like that is some failed crooner who just had to get good at something else. So turns out I'm pretty good at Vampire Society.
I'm pretty good at vampires, you guys. I don't know. Anyone tried this? Anyone heard of this?
Yeah.
Vampires? Yeah.
And yeah, he's not the Prince of New York, but hey, Atlantic City, it's something.
It's not nothing. Has run it into the ground a little bit.
Yeah, like it's not as good as it used to be. That's not my fault.
Frank's hot dogs aren't so famous anymore, but I'm gonna start. My opening bid is influencer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, TikTok. As soon as you said TikTok influencer, I was like, yeah,
immediately. You can show up on it. You don't have to be out any. Half of those things are fake. I don't know if you ever saw. She was always one of my favorite Viners. She did. She's under the Gabby show, but she did a thing where like she faked she was at Coachella as like a bit to kind of show how easy it is to be an influencer and completely fucking fake. Like she went to her backyard and faked that she was at Coachella with a friend of like a graphic designer who could Photoshop her into things. So you don't have to be at any of these things. That picture with Drake can be fake as fuck. Like, and if you're big enough, Drake might be like, I fuck with her, yeah. They have 1 billion followers. How is that possible? I think TikTok influencer, YouTuber, anything like that, makeup tutorialist kind of thing, like 100%. Forgive me if I get their pronouns wrong, but I believe they are recognizably a boy, but that was on CoverGirl, the first CoverGirl boy.
Is that James Charles?
That's the name I associate with it, but I'd hate to be wrong. But here we are. We're on the internet. We're already wrong. We are the olds. We don't know. You're lucky that we know who James Charles is. That's how young we are.
I did grimace when I said their name because maybe that's right. That's what I say when I don't know anybody's name. It's this.
He said confidently. But yeah, like some crusty old jazz musician watched them applying like smoky eye and was just kind of like, this person needs to live forever. Where do they live? Can I get there within one night? It's going to be really important to my timetable, actually. I'm going to have to crash. So, but yeah, that's easy. That's low hanging fruit. Any art style that went out, Fred Durst, any art style that went out immediately, so they became a producer.
CC in chat says a VTuber Toreador. And Liz says like a fanfic writer or Tumblr artist.
100%. Yes.
Especially if you don't have to show your face anywhere, so people don't know that you're not aging.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And yes.
Yeah, and you just
1,000,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Toreador are evergreen. You never have to imagine what's a Toreador doing in the modern nights. They're doing whatever you're doing, like whatever thing you like. They're there somehow. Or if you want a behind the scenes person, they're running a media group where they're finding these people and curating them and kind of running a behind the scenes reality show of whichever one of you hits 1 billion likes first is the one I'm embracing. You're my new child.
Oh, and you're betting on it probably.
Probably. And then there are other Toreador who are just kind of like, well, not if I embrace them first, actually. I knew them before. I was a subscriber from day one.
I'm a Patreon, actually.
I'm a Patreon at the $50.
Oh.
Yeah, they shout me out at the end of videos.
But this is only tangentially related, but I also just like the idea that Bruja can pretend like they are the quickest and most modern clan, But I like to think that they have to get mad at the Toreador. Like, that's not even real. We should probably look into this TikTok. I'm being told TikTok. Maybe we can get people on the TikTok. What's a hashtag?
What do we even hire you for, Kyle? Fuck. Tumblr. I think they closed down Tumblr. Am I thinking of Pottermore? Fuck.
We totally missed Snapchat, Kyle.
So many fucking Buster Swords.
Fuck.
I overinvested in Buster Swords, Kyle.
We have the Final Fantasy.
Was going to make it come back.
Yeah. We already have that crowd, Kyle.
Kyle.
God damn it. But anyway, sorry. I like the I just love that. No, they are just socially so much smarter than you, and they already know.
Yeah, I mean the joke even throughout these videos, but for as long as I can remember making them, is the Ventrue embrace a guy to answer their emails. The 500-year-old Toreador knows how to answer her email.
Yeah,
like she's got it. Like, thanks. I stay cool. And to a certain extent, they do. They're going to be good for a couple problematic takes, in between the lines, of course. They're going to be a step behind. They're going to not understand what all the noise of the Me Too movement is, but they understand that it probably means something. It's the SNL bit where she's playing the old school Hollywood woman who's completely fine with all the fucked up shit they had to do. And everyone else is kind of like,
yes, they're always on panels, and she's just telling the worst things, and everyone else is like, "What? No, that's not okay."
No, it was never okay. Yeah, So they're out there for sure. Or talking about their hot tub threesomes with Cecil B. DeMille and Picasso. No, Dali. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I want crazier mustache.
Nice tiny little mustache, but it's so big at the same time.
It's amazing. How he avoided being embraced by the Toreador is the real question. He didn't want to be a member of any club that would accept him as a member. The Toreador write themselves. I almost feel like it's cheating. Like already, chat's done it as well as we can.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to linger here much longer. Let me see, just a campaign manager, like just for another, like non-artist, kind of modern, what are the kids in these days? Like somebody who almost got their candidate, elected, but was aggressive enough that someone took notice and was just kind of like, actually, my spot in the Primogen is being challenged right now, and I could use someone on my side who understands the TikTok. The Ting-Tonks and the Tic-Tacs, I need all of them on my side.
The two I had written down, and they're both a little jokey, but I mean that's a little bit where I live. Was Horse Girl the vampire, of just some girl who's super into dressage, and some Toreador showed up and was like, "Yes," and it's worthless as a vampire skill. Maybe she has a point in animalism, and you're like, "Why? What?" And then the other.
Did you ever really own a horse?
And then the other one on similar lines was a magician some illusionist who impressed the Toreador one night, and they show up at Elysium. Some of us can do actual magic, right?
But where did the lighter fluid come from?
Job.
Anecdotally, I am not a huge fan of the book American Gods. We can argue about that on some other stream, and by that I mean the rest of the internet. But almost my very favorite scene of it is the very ending scene of it, which is Shadow goes to actual Norway or whatever, and encounters the actual Wotan, like the older dude with the one eye and the crooked staff, the Gandalf the Grey motherfucker with one eye, and he finds him and he sits next to him, or Wotan finds him and sits next to him, and he's just kind of like, "What do you do, little man?" or whatever. And he does some stupid close-up magic trick, and Wotan's just like, "Holy shit, are you kidding me? This is great." And I just think that's these old school dum-dums would absolutely be mind blown by Chris Freak Mind Angel or whatever the fuck his name is.
Got it.
Like, yeah, like actually now that's the name of the character,
Yeah.
Chris Freak Mind Angel. Yeah, because he can kind of look like he levitates from one angle. Oh my god, this guy flies as a human. Imagine what he can do as a vampire. We are leaving. We are staking you in the sun, Gregor. This is the last fucking time with you.
Absolutely not. Learn how a mirror works, Gregor.
In my day, they were always all warped and wobbly. It was hard to get a mirror.
But no, yeah, Horse Girl the Vampire was the one I thought of earlier, and I was like, yeah, I want to be a Horse Girl vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Oh,
ridiculous.
the Toreador cutting room floor is just filthy with these people that
Yeah.
one person thought was impressive once, and that's all it took. Now they live forever.
Hope it was worth it.
Oops, all horse girls. It's a real scourge outside of Louisiana.
Okay, we talked about their disciplines. Anything else about Toreador? Other than I
No.
know you could go on all night about them.
Oh my god, literally all night. This is just the tip of the iceberg that's making me chuckle. Chris Freak Mind Angel is where we're going to leave that one for tonight.
So
The end of a CNN interview. Well, we're going to have to leave it there.
yeah. Speaking of magicians, the real magicians, the Tremere.
We belong in another game. They're just the weirdest vestigial tale of Ars Magica, and I kind of love them. Like, and literally, fictionally, they work into so many things. They're really cool. I love the Tremere. They're fucking hard as hell. I think you even said the one you don't have a pitch on is Tremere. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I have one sort of, but it came about through this episode, and it's cribbing on something else, which is fine. But we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't, and they're. I just don't like them, and we're one of the pillars of the Camarilla. I'm like, I guess, like, does anyone like you? Like, I don't know, you're just weird blood magicians, and I don't know. Can you not? You ate Salot. That's not cool.
That's not cool. Everyone likes Salot. Until they didn't, or until he was a Diablerist, or until he was a Diabolist.
Well, there was like a...
That dude has 6 clans to his name. He's really deadbeat dead.
Because there's a... because didn't the Tremere start spreading rumors
some of it's not true, and then some of it, like the Baali came from somewhere. Some of it's true.
That he eats your soul when he's healing you or drinking from you, like that kind of thing. It's just, well, you don't have a soul. You're a vampire. Get over it.
Get over it. All right, but we've immediately gone deeper lore than we want to. All right, so the Tremere are fucked up. They're kind of like straight out of like a modern Prometheus handbook of like they literally come from a magic game. They come from an old school wizard like game. The Ars Magica was White Wolf's original product, and they had like the Order of Hermes and these kind of like old school like you draw weird sigils and make alchemy to do magic kind of game. Like it was a real throwback Victorian kind of Edwardian level like technology. And everyone liked the Tremere, I guess. Mark Reinhagen really liked the Tremere, and the idea was that they stepped out of that game, sort of. Like, this is metafictionally. This is not actually in the fiction. They kind of stepped out of that game and were like, oh, in this game, the players are vampires. We're going to become vampires. So we're going to make you embrace us, and we're going to become vampires now. So they are wizards who made themselves vampires. If you're like, oh, just like that other wizard who made themselves a vampire in my favorite fiction, you're lying to me and yourself. They are archetypical of nothing. Yeah. They're weird.
Or that happened.
Other than the fact they're kind of alchemical vampires, right. Like they have made. Yeah.
Or that
they're not nothing, but they're weird.
Yeah. Or that your example comes after the Tremere, and someone thought the Tremere were rad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. If there is an appearance in like this game doesn't have it, but I always love when role playing games are like in Masks, where it'll be like this playbook is obviously inspired by, you know, the Wonder Twins or whatever. Yeah. If it would just be 3 question marks and be like, you think wizards are cool? Shut up.
Shut up. Didn't you want to be a magic vampire? Then don't make it hot for us right now. Just be cool and do blood magic. So yeah, they're blood magicians. They were a mortal bunch of wizards, more or less, magicians in kind of the prestige level of sometimes you've just got like a clone brother or David Bowie's in it. You don't know. And the head of their order at the time was just kind of like, yeah, I think I want to fuck with vampires. There's only so much magic can do for me in whatever Middle Ages, Dark Ages, whatever time I'm coming from. I think living forever is going to be pretty dope. And I think me and my 7 best friends can do it. And that's going to be where we're going to go. And so they did it. That's their story. Again, like all your favorite fictions of that thing that happened.
The Conjuring, but vampires, I guess, or the Coven. I meant the Coven. The Coven, but vampires. Sure. Yeah.
So, and they do that, and they make someone embrace them. They learn from them a little bit, and then they eat them. And then they were like, well, we're one of the 13 original clans now. Everyone's like, absolutely not.
No, you aren't.
You're not in my phone book yet. I don't know who you are. This is weird and frankly insulting. Where's Zalat? He will know what to do. Oh, no, you ate him. So,
and Tremere becomes like a big gross blob at some point. Like,
oh man, we could do a 2-hour video on the Tremere. For as much as I'm dissing on them right now, they're at the center of so much fiction, and they are completely bubkis. They're absolutely nothing, but I love them so much. So yeah, these 7 magic assholes made themselves big time vampire daddies and mommies. Melisandre's one of my favorites, and then they went forth and prospered and made more Tremere. And immediately everyone hates them. You can't imagine why, you say? It's because of that thing where they ate everyone's favorite. Like literally the good guy vampire, which is kind of like, I'm kind of like Vampire Gandhi. And this guy ate me. So cool, I guess.
You were all cool with it when the Giovanni did it to the Cappadocians. Because weird. What are you doing anyway?
And they're all weird and corpse-like. No one liked them.
No one liked them. You can't touch Saulot.
That's right. So they do this, and they're kind of like, and then everyone's basically kind of like, no, dude, you're never allowed here. And they're like, hey, our bad. Reading the room, it sounds like no one's cool with that. So what if we levied blood curses on your greatest enemies and kind of bought our way in, huh? You guys got sin eaters around here? You guys sell reliquaries to save your soul? We will do that. So they do that. They basically, when the Camarillas form, they're just kind of like, hey, you know what you guys could use? Some fucking tight blood magic. That's going to really make a lot of these binds stick, and it's going to make a lot of your enemies be afraid of you. And so the Tremere are kind of begrudgingly, they're the libertarians of vampires. They're begrudgingly allowed to still be here, even though everyone knows they're horseshit. Sorry, not to get political.
I think our allegiances are on our sleeves from the Bruja conversation we had earlier.
I feel like we planted a flag.
Yeah. Liz in chat, Sari says, I get it. It's like your alchemist John Dee, but a vampire.
Yep. So that said, they're cool. They are rad as shit. They're just weird.
They're a weird pyramid scheme, and like
they're actually a pyramid scheme.
Bloodbound to each other. Yeah, like I know we joke about pyramid schemes a lot. No, they're a literal pyramid scheme.
Like, yeah.
And you're bloodbound to everybody. That's their weakness, right? You're just bloodbound to the clan, basically.
Yeah, and then eventually it was only 2 times bloodbind because bloodbinding is illegal in Camarilla society, so they had to stop doing that. But
weird. The Tremere was doing something no one liked.
Yeah, which in my opinion, they're still doing it. They just pretend they're not. Right. So yeah, you are immediately enslaved to the clan. They're real Scientology. Actually, there might be a good character concept right off the top. They're part of some public-facing church of blood weirdos.
Of thaumaturgy.
But yeah, so they tend to stay to themselves because no one else likes them. But they're absolutely essential to Camarilla society because sometimes you need a blood magician. And you don't want to cross them because they're fucking blood magicians, the thing you use to animate your dead corpse all night. They're kind of a big deal. And the more we're talking about it, the more Scientology. If you want a good job in Hollywood, you might need to know a Scientologist. If you want a good position or someone to vote for you in an upcoming Camarilla meeting, you might need the Tremere on your side. But mostly they just stay in their weird little chantries and experiment forever. They're Harry Potter houses as if they were vampires instead. Hopefully this reference will make sense a year or 2 from now when the series comes out. But Wheel of Time have the Aes Sedai, and they're all like kind of broken up, and they're a literal White Tower, by the way. It's even called the White Tower. It's a big fucking ivory spire tower. but they all just mostly get together and like live in college forever. They live in a college dorm forever, or like a frat house, sorority house forever, where they get together. They're kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of big into trying to make eyeballs on hands a thing. It's where I've really spent the last of my 100 years. And it's coming along. I'm happy to report. Rooter's hands, by the way. It's an actual thaumaturgical ritual. You cut off your hand, you stick your eyeball to it, you heal it over a month, and now you've got just a little spy eyeball monster. It's adorable and fun.
I guess.
The Addams Family or the Munsters, perfect. Again, everyone's favorite vampire tropes.
Oh, I guess Grandpa Munster is like a magician. Yeah, okay. Weird, but okay.
It's fucked. It's great, though. Because I am eternally fascinated by academia and just what it takes to, like, apologies to your wife who lives it, but like, I get like the whole weird, messed up, shitty politics of small or even large university life is infinitely fascinating to me because it's a microcosm. It's a whole society.
Yeah. As someone who only hears about it, it is always interesting.
Yeah, and this is because all the rest of the major spheres of influence were taken, that tends to be the teat that the Tremere suckle to, is they can get away with being the weird dude who, didn't you graduate like 10 years ago, dude? It's weird you still show up at parties, actually. The vampire. So there, that's the Tremere.
Hey, you need some blood magic?
Hey, what's going on? You need that keg can never be untapped, you know what I mean, bro? No one knows what you mean, bro.
And we don't like you. We don't like you either.
Every year, your Dave Matthews t-shirts get more and more out of sync with this reality.
DMB's coming back, baby.
Absolutely. Don't get him started.
What was I going to say? Oh, and we alluded to it earlier, but they're the ones who were tricked into changing the Assamites' clan flaw.
Yes.
Because blood magic.
Yeah, and thaumaturgy is just such a pain in the ass. I can't even describe to you. Like, it used to be kind of easy because then it was just one path, and they expanded the path.
You gotta pick a path, and then it's complicated. It's rather complicated.
Otherwise, yeah, their clan weakness is that they are immediately enslaved to the clan, more or less. I'm shorthanding it, but I think that's a better flaw than they're almost enslaved to the fuck off. That means nothing. And they're not supposed to be, so that's your dirty secret right away. Their clan disciplines are auspex, so they can see auras, they can read tea leaves and shit, they can psychically disconnect from their body. Auspe...
Dominate.
Thaumaturgy.
And
dominate? Yeah, it's dominate, right? Yeah, they can sleep.
They trick you into liking them.
Yeah.
You do like me. I'm a pillar of this community.
I've been here all along. I'm one of the 13 original clans. You weren't. Okay, no.
He'd wave his hand with authority.
Immediately betray the lie there. And they can mentally roofie you. They're not great. They're not great. The worst. But as college sex pest metaphors go, they are aces. Yeah. You can use them all night long.
Sorry, I was scrolling through the thaumaturgy section. It doesn't look that bad, but it is more complicated. Any of the magic systems in this are inherently more complicated than just regular disciplines. Because you got to pick certain ones and
Yeah, they were spun out of a system that wasn't built for it and had to be retrofitted for it. And in that way, they did an admirable job. It's a 5-point system or a 10-point system. Like it's versatile. It's just it was not built for what they made it.
The complicated part I remember is trying to change paths or cross paths or something. It's like the point system is just ends up being a lot more math you have to do.
And you have to have the most amount of points in the primary path, and then you can't have anything. Yeah, it gets just.
It's just a lot of bookkeeping, which maybe if you want to be a blood sorcerer appeals to you.
But if you want to do a bunch of arcane math, have I got the clan for you? They minor in arcane math.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, I always have the same image of a Tremere to me, which I think is just the signature character, like Aisling Sturbridge or whatever her name is. But yeah, I love the academic angle of it all. I love the idea that you're eternally in college, that like you've decided to never leave. You love learning and researching so much. You just you got embraced and stayed, and now you're just living in an undead frat house forever, where it's also like one part like science collective, right? Like, I mean, you're just basically like, you're literally, what are you working on tonight? Like, oh, I'm fucking around with ambulatory hands. Ah, neat. Wow. You need a help there, or what? You need any weird Egyptian red? Because I specialize in weird Egyptian, specifically weird Egyptian. Regular Egyptian, I'm pants at.
Absolutely
can't make heads or tails of it. What's this, an ibis? Who knows? Is that even a real bird? But weird Egyptian, I'm your gal.
Guillermo del Toro, but a blood sorcerer vampire.
100%. Those shitty Dan Brown novels, boom, Tremere.
There you go.
Dude, that dude's a Tremere.
Probably the
He's
bad
a water
guy.
poloing symbologist or whatever the fuck it is. Tremere all day. Yeah, but you could be politician. You don't have to be a weird, creepy academic sorcerer. You could be they also need public faces. They need a Tom Cruise. So you could literally be like a local celebrity who's just kind of like, Johnny Tremere endorses this. And he's like, oh, well, Johnny Tremere. I do like Tremere. He's surprisingly short in person. Like 4'9".
Keeps trying to kill himself in all these movies for some reason.
Why do they keep trying to convince us he's the same size as Ving Rhames? Ving Rhames is a big dude. Like, not huge, but big.
It's weird. At this point, it's weird.
But he remembered my name from 6 years ago, and that's not nothing.
He makes a lot of eye contact.
Like, an eerie amount. I think he's trying to dominate me, actually. Yeah, so going with the Scientology metaphor, you could do
really
worse.
Does work well.
You could do worse than they need a Tom Cruise or similar. Yeah, and like more than that, almost like the fun-loving society gal who just like keeps showing up at like salons, which they still have, because they're old-timey vampires who don't age well. But goes and shows up at Elysium, and everyone's just kind of like, Tremere wrong. I think we got the Tremere wrong. I don't know. There's something about her. She just lightens up a room. Is she Toreador? She'll never tell. You know, like that kind of like, I think that's a fun, like just the eternal PR nerd of the Tremere, whose job is to spin their every magical explosion and mage infiltration into, but think about we did learn. We learned ways to not set chantries on fire.
Yeah, and I think you may kind of mentioned it earlier, but you could probably make a good pitch of a Tremere that is infiltrating another clan, pretending to be an old school Malkavian or something like that, like who has dominate and auspex.
Yeah, and using blood magic to cover the rest of it. Like, they can alter their own aura probably or something. I'd let that happen as like some kind of weird ritual or something.
But okay, we talked about that. Yeah, but yeah, the one I kind of it's a little bit of a cop out because it's just stealing a concept / reusing a character I've used before in a different system. But one I thought JJ from the Unsleeping City, speak of Unsleeping City again, of sort of the nerd who scienced so hard he figured out magic.
Yeah.
And the Tremere are like, that's interesting. Physics, you say? Come back. Come here, child.
Yeah. Tell me more forever.
Yeah.
I have time. So do you now.
And then the other one was a similar-ish take, but Ray, who I played in Unknown Armies. I rolled to know all the armies. Of just sort of this shitty hacker dude who figured out, magic in some capacity, and does trash magic. And they're like, okay, but we're going to teach you how to do real magic now, son. It's just like, I'll hack for you or whatever. Like,
fuck.
And he's very fuck. He was constantly smoking a cigarette and laying down in the back of cars for no reason.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, like, computer techno, the future is in reading algorithms. Nate Silver, statistician, magicians or shit like that, math magicians, etc. Some kind of Grant Morrison nonsense. You could all of these things, are perfectly valid. You will be almost playing your own game, though. Fair warning: no one likes the Tremere. Yeah. Most of all, not your other players.
And perhaps in that way, they are one of the clans that benefit the most from you're all playing Tremere.
Yeah. An all Tremere game is recommended almost because then you've all got the same. Again, you're part of this research collective. You're all doing rad magic shit. I'm figuring out the way that Kabbalistic number math, is still the only true source, to decode the secret language behind the universe. Oh, that's neat. I'm making hands with eyes talk. We're kind of the same.
Can we stop inviting Ted? Because I'm real tired of those hands with eyes.
I can only get now. It's Ted Reuter because it is Reuter's hand. But yeah, and it's the most D&D-ish class. So if you're just I just don't want to put away my spell book, you can be a Tremere. But also, in that case, the JJ from Unsleeping City is probably your best. I still need friends. I don't know why everybody hates us, but I learned magic was real 2 nights ago. Will you guys just be cool? It is.
I didn't do all those things, right? My dad did, and I get it. We're all mad at Dad, but
yeah, I didn't eat a 3-eyed demon and turn into a slug monster. I'm hearing a lot of. I didn't. That's not me. That's not me. I didn't do that.
I didn't know most of those things were real until yesterday.
So
yesternight. Sorry.
If you could help me navigate this club, because surprise, I'm not great in public. That would be super. Oh man, now this adorable dum-dum I want to play. This poor milquetoast wizard son of a bitch. Math magician.
Okay. Yeah.
The Tremere, everybody. Yeah.
We've simultaneously dunked on them and told you what to do.
Yeah. I can't do it any better than that. I physically am unable.
And finally, arguably the one true pillar of the Camarilla, the Ventru.
Yes. They put the V in Camarilla.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, the Ventru, they're the kings. They've never gotten used to not being kings. They're kind of mad about it sometimes, in fact. But yeah, whatever the top is, whatever the toppest white dude you're thinking of right now, that's a Ventru.
Oh, yeah. For anyone who can see the art on the screen, just look at it. Hate it.
Yeah, that guy was born to be hated.
Yeah.
Your Gordon Geckos, your American Psychos, your Commodus from Gladiators, just the bad guy of every movie you've ever seen, who is also probably Donald Trump, by the way. Again, not to get political. But, it is just every rich, entitled douchebag ever. However, to their credit, boy, they get shit done. You need these douchebags when you're controlling barbarians at the gate and crap, and there's sometimes actual barbarians, so you actually do need them. You are immediately the villain at probably any modern table, but that's your angle. Have fun, try and role play your way out of being the immediate villain of this thing. And again, they make all the same sensible arguments that your shitty uncle or whoever at Thanksgiving does that absolutely sounds like sense until you scratch below even the barest surface.
Or you care about anyone who isn't yourself.
For instance, that's another trick that they have yet to learn. But they control literally all the money, levers of power, privilege, and rights of conquest that haven't gone out of style. And I know I've made them sound really cool so far, but
wow, I just immediately want to play one, I guess.
Yeah. How do I get in on this whitest of privilege? Which you don't have to be a white dude. First off, that's for sure. I think their first African American Ventru was not great, but I do think that there has been some effort into putting, it's not just white dudes that are rich and powerful. They're just crazy good at it. So they're still going to be the stereotype for that reason. But at the same time, I really dig Ventru. They're never going to be my go-to clan for all the reasons I've stated. I may have kept it oblique behind a mask of neutrality. But
I couldn't tell at all.
thank you. But at the same time, I like that challenge too of just kind of like, nah, fuck it. Yeah, I'm gonna be this asshole. And I'm gonna find a way to like them. Again, this system, these games are very good at building empathy for people that aren't like you or are like you, etc. So, the one Venture I played was an absolute horse's ass, and that was a lot of fun. But again, you need a modern Venture. Oh, sorry, the Venture are basically the founders. They were the first ones to call everyone inside. They're the dad. Like if Toreador are the moms, and sometimes the wine drunk aunts of the Camarilla, the Ventures are the daddies. They are the big boy daddy figures who are just kind of like, I conquered Rome once, so everyone's gonna get the fuck inside right now. I'm not taking any of your sass lip. Get inside. Quit horsing off. And yet again, they literally brought the kind of stability that at that point the vampire world needed. And they were also the ones that were like, everyone's going to stop being vampires in public. And these are the ones who benefited the most from it. If you're going to find a sympathetic angle to a Venture, you're not. But like if you were going to try, the idea that they kind of gave up their kingliness to be like, well, fine, we'll be princes, I guess. You know, like...
Yeah, their symbol is literally a scepter of power. Like
it's a scepter. They suck. I think originally it was an actual crown. By the way, I think the scepter was a second edition revamp.
Oh yeah, because old Ventrue Carter has the little crown. Although I think the Lasombra still have just straight up a crown.
Oh yeah, but the Lasombra are dicks. They're great. We'll talk about them in a future episode.
We will.
So yeah, like. I don't know. They are a fun challenge. You need them in your game. Like you need a bunch of Venture NPCs at the very least. Even if you are naked about how much they are the villain of this campaign.
The worst.
Session 1, killed this asshole. No one likes them.
He keeps talking down to me, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Instantly hateable. Overthrow this motherfucker.
Yeah. Whereas we have said that so and so clan is actually important, even if we're taking the piss out of them a little bit. Vampire Society doesn't run without Ventrue. Or the Camarilla, the true Vampire Society, because the Sabbat play it, all their weird Sabbatness, and they're not in charge over there. The aforementioned Lasombra are. But they're just... And look, like... I think your Prince of Pittsburgh was a good, sympathetic Ventrue. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to see her do a lot, but it was... Yeah, I get it. The old dad was mean. You all were under the spot for a while. I'm young. I'm trying to lend an ear. But
trying to be cool.
I'm trying to be
cool. And mind you, her strongest opposition was another Ventrue.
For sure.
With some name like Victor Cross or some other white guy horseshit who was immediately kind of like, are we going to put up with this forever?
Oh, right. He immediately called out all the new embraces except for the poor Nosferatu. He was like, I don't want to be associated with you. Can you not do that?
Just... Salt of the earth, I guess. You guys are going through my trash, I'm sure. Because there's always some old white dickhead. So now that but again, there's something to be said for the establishment. Like, look, we're all very tired of the establishment. And as we started, or didn't start, but rounded out very well with a great quote about, Bruja being agents of change in a static society. The Ventrue are that static society, but... There's a reason society's worked so far. Like it has not been for nothing. It has been because of these centers holding that have worked. Those centers are fraying currently. This does not reflect my actual political attitudes at all times, but there's something to be said that, all this was a great idea once, and it's starting to mold around the edges. Yep. And the Ventrue are eternally molding around the edges.
And maybe then if you to kind of start to move into our pitches, although we have to talk about their discipline still. But like, maybe a Ventrue sees that this is all changing, and they... Hey, Lil.
I got a blood blister. I got a blood blister.
I'm sorry.
It hurts.
I'm sorry.
What was I saying? The Ventru see that this is untenable. What we are doing, it turns out, was only good for us, and people don't like that when they figure it out. And so they have to then embrace someone that maybe a Bruja had their eye on, of like, you make change for good. Make change for me good. Do it. Tell me how. Like,
not change better also for me.
So then that way you as the player, you can kind of chafe under that a little bit, but it's a way to get a not Gordon Gekko as your player character Ventru. If you love the idea of their disciplines are fortitude, dominate, and presence. So they have two different ways to
force instruments.
Yeah, they have two different ways to dick over your mind, and you can't hurt them real good.
It's amazing. Yeah, they are literal pillars. And you made a great case for them being establishment Democrats, actually.
Yeah, it can be the flavor of establishment you tolerate slightly more.
Yes. How they're out of touch is up to you. But yeah, so and with that, let's get right into it. My go-to joke, my go-to concept, because it's not a joke, and I think it's perfectly viable, and is your best route as you're like, I want to create a 13th generation, fresh off the rack Ventru. You are someone who has embraced to work phones and emails for your ancient boss. Like this dude who's been around since the 40s and has not kept up. The Toreador are still on TikTok. Like, the Ventru don't understand where the ticker tape machine went, why no one's using mimeographs anymore, and aren't sure why they can't call the secretary doll. Everyone is like really upset at me now. And I've had to go to something called HR, and the first word in that is human, and I find that laughable. Like, they are comics companies circa 5 minutes ago. Like, they are still like walking around with these old guard attitudes that are much too slow to change. And so, yeah, they needed to literally embrace someone to set the clock on their VCR in 1982. And that person is now a vampire, so here they are. They're actually probably not that frivolous. They would have ghouled that guy, and then after 10 years of service, they'd be like, I forget why I started ghouling you, but I guess you can stay. For exemplary service, I guess. I want to say Chad. Carlos, I was close. Yeah, so the young blood needed to make the modern world go is a great Ventru concept. What do you got?
So this their clan weakness is each Ventru has a dining restriction. They can only feed off of certain people. So that might be children, it might be men, it can be very specific or a little broad if you want to kind of not quite cheese it, but if you're just like people only over the age of 45. Democrats. I can only eat Democrats.
100%. That is.
So mine plays into that a little bit of just for whatever reason. This is because I don't particularly like Ventru. I think they are interesting in that. I mean, historically, I think just that stuff is interesting. The people who make Vampire Society go is interesting to me as a person who likes history. I mean, I like them. Lots of monsters through history are interesting.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I settled on RA. You're on a college. You immediately have access to young people. If your sire is, I only feed on college students. Okay, well, you can't show up because you're creepy as hell. Like,
yeah.
You look 45 even though you're 450. And you don't know what a t-shirt is. Like, so, yeah, and just he can kind of feel what you said of like, well, I know how Twitter works. Like, I guess, like I've got 15 followers, but there are satisfied 15. I'll tell you what.
They are well fit.
But even some kid who's like in maybe like class politics or whatever, he's the president of the class of 2022. And he just has access to kind of college life that most Ventru as old ass weirdos aren't going to be able to navigate very well, but is important because young people are pretty easy to prey on, it turns out, as a vampire. as long as you can get them into the right place. Soup says it sounds like we have a Vampires by College game.
Yep. You're going to be pissing off a lot of Tremere dipping into that well, but oh well.
But and maybe that's even the Ventru's like the Tremere and Torrid are all on these college campuses. They call them. I will get someone there.
Is it campus or campu? We're pronouncing S's now. Okay, well, not how I did it, but
how very 1998. It's what year? Shit.
How very 1998. Yeah, and you mentioned a great angle, because if you're just kind of like, well, fuck, for whatever reason, I rolled a D7, I don't know. Bear with me. You're like, I'm accepting a dare, I have to create a Ventru. Being the bridge to a feeding restriction of a different vampire is a great angle to it. That is your Prince of Pittsburgh, by the way. I think I told the story on the previous stream, but my previous just bumbledick horse's ass of a Ventru could only feed on children and was themselves not a monster, but was de facto a monster. They fed on children. They were real. They weren't quite Humbert, but they weren't not Humbert because they sucked. But they didn't mean harm to children. So they had a Gal Friday that was a child, which helped kind of Pied Piper children to this person. He drank as shallowly as he could. He returned them to their beds so that they would just be sickly by the morning. And this was in the era before doctors, so it was fine. When he lay dying, he kept this child in, infinite pubescence for, however long, because the minute they aged past, midnight was the minute that they stopped being a vessel for the vampire. But then as they lay dying, they embraced this eternal child and arguably doomed them. But yeah, so that's why you had a 13 to 14-year-old Prince of Pittsburgh. But yeah, the idea that I can only feed off of college students, or I can only feed off of commie liberals, they would call it. Embracing the RA or the class president or the organizer of the Christian Youth League or something like that, because they can feed on the blood of Christendom. It's a good old-timey Crusaders feeding restriction.
I just remembered two Ventru concepts we talked about last time. One, scumbag accountant makes a good Ventru.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to figure out a reason why they weren't ghouled and they were made a vampire, but whatever. You just figure it out. And then the other one
I bought deep into Bitcoin. I need help forever.
And then the other one was the guy who bred dachshunds. And just had that fleet of ghouled dachshunds in his mansion.
A fleet. Yes. A fleet of ghouled dachshunds.
It's just something weird old people get up into and who have way too much time and money on their hands. Just, yes, I will make a dog that is shaped like a hot dog wiener. Perfect.
Perfect.
And they will be supernaturally powerful.
I am making the best of infinity.
God doesn't make mistakes, man does.
And I have made several, but not the dachshund.
He can stay.
What hath man wrought? Just bizarre, inbred rich, just straight back to the Tudors level of just kind of you were an evolutionary dead end and the only one that some young aspiring Ventru could get access to.
Yeah, but
so you're Second Lord Prince Timothy or something like that, and you're just
even a modern royal of you've learned how to use these societal nuances that are basically worthless in modern society outside of your circle, except they're not to vampires.
Oh no, Albert, I've heard of you. Oh no, you're Albert the 15th. Well, that is new. This is good. You're the Duke of Lower Windsor. Well, that's okay. Fun. Oh, Windsor not ties. You're the Prince of Windsor not ties. Okay. We're getting further, but
Prince is the wrong. You're a royal highness. What is that? Is that? Oh, that's as low as you can go. Shit.
okay.
You got divorced, you motherfucker.
If I tell you to fill out the whole form, not the first side. There was a second. Yeah, no. Should have guessed by your unibrow that you didn't know that. And your anemia.
Fuck.
Fuck. There's so many Buster Princes.
Oh boy.
Just a cabinet of discarded earls. Row upon row of sad lobots.
Anything else you want to say about the Ventru, the Camarilla, or anything else we've talked about tonight?
So much, but no, we were afraid of not filling time, and that's hilarious in retrospect at this point.
Well, I'm glad we decided to only do the Camarilla, not 13 plans.
No, and had we not been more than halfway there, I think we might have been wild to punch out. But I am very satisfied with the work we've done. Again, I can only say if you were here for a more edgelord War of Darkness, it's there for you. It's written in the text. You don't need anything else. I can't deny the humanity of it. Again, these games have taught me an empathy for humanity that teaches me to have a natural sense of humor about the sad sons of bitches that live forever. And I will not apologize for it. But again, yeah, if you want to take this all very serious and everything's very, you can only use night as a definition of time. Yes, I've written for it. I've literally Control F find all day instances and change them. So yeah, and that's fine. That's valid. I also played that game, and then I just kind of grew out of having fun playing that game. I wanted to play a game with a little more fun. And again, humans are flawed, terrible creatures, and vampires are just humans who have been cursed indefinitely to keep being human forever. And that's adorable and sucky, and I love it. So yeah, that's my ending disclaimer on the whole thing. I do hope to come back and do the Sabbat or Independence, or let's just pin out the Sabbat for right now, because that actually has 2 more clans than this one did. But
well, yeah, at
least we don't have to reintroduce them whole cloth.
But also, I don't know. I don't have that many anti-tribu clan ideas. It's just everything we said, but turned up to 11 kind of thing. I would mostly want to talk about the La Sombra and the
Shamish.
The Shamishi. Zemese. Tizimizis.
All of those might be accurate. No one can tell you.
And if you had maybe talk about something like the city Gangrel or something like that. We can talk about
we can talk about the differences instead. The Pander, how they're kind of an organized Kaitif, because we didn't talk about the Kaitif.
No, well, we can talk about the Kaitif when we talk about independent clans.
Yeah,
non-Camarilla, I guess. But
by the way, somewhere I probably saw it from Twitter, but it must be connected to a YouTube somewhere. It might even be Gentleman Gamer, but I don't want to give them credit or blame them for this if it's not their fault. But someone interviewed the old school command staff. How do you pronounce this word? And they were all pronunciations that I had heard, but all of them were slightly different enough to be anywhere from Jimishi, Zimise, Shimshe, etc. All of them were represented in the rainbow of ways to pronounce. I don't know. I heard it was Hungarian, and then we found out that wasn't true. I think it's Romanian, actually. No, the vowels are this. Yes, no one knows. There is no wrong way to pronounce Jimishi because no one can correct you. It's a made-up fucking word.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they can just tell us how it's pronounced. They publish it.
Yeah, and much the way that, Matt Mercer adorably still says Sigil at his default. I still say Ospe, even though it's almost certainly Auspex. I grew up saying Ospe. I can't help it. I was 14 or whatever the fuck I was at the time. So, these are made-up words in a fantasy land. You can pronounce them however you want, and you can do whatever you want.
Okay, perfect. Thank you to everyone who hung out in chat for this over 3-hour show. Thank you so much. Like Marty said, I hope we can come back and do this. We'll figure out a good reason. We mentioned some of the other vampire stuff we talked about. I know Marty still wants to talk about werewolves. That'll happen at a later date at some point. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, leave a like or subscribe on Twitch. Leave a like on our YouTubes. Give us a comment. Tell us what kind of vampire you would create. That sounds like a really cool idea. You should do it.
Yeah.
Your vampire idea, not my comment thing. I mean, that does sound like a cool idea, and you should do it. But your vampire idea, probably pretty neat. Write it down. Start a game. You can.
You can.
This week we have Star Chasers on Wednesday. I forget. Holiday Mondays always throw me off. Star Chasers on Monday. Odyssey of the Dragon Lords on Sunday. We'll be back Monday with Galaxian Revolt. Be kind to each other. Wear your mask. Stay safe, everybody. And have a great night in this world of darkness.
Snicked. These are V's for vampire.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. I made it up.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I'll do this. Okay, here we go.